praying, they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
If it's not urgent, leave my key here and then leave.
If you ask me to leave right now, you'll regret it.
Did you stay here because of Jenny?
What do you think?
I'm asking you.
No one knows the result before the end of a match. You know what kind of man I am. If I see something I like, I will try my best to get it.
So you're really gonna stay then? I knew that you weren't the kind of man who would leave his friends behind.
Okay, let's work on getting Taylor Young.
Hey, Mr. Ban, your nose.
It's bleeding. I got it. Hurry, sit down, sit down.
All right, good morning. The 17th day of April 2023. Good morning. This is Good Morning Kenya. We are glad that you are up and early to join us here on KBC Channel 1. How are you doing? How was your weekend? It's a new week, new fresh start, and for us here at KBC, we wish you all the best in the coming week ahead. A lot happened in the political arena, and we'll be taking a look at that later on in the program with my analyst and guests in studio later on in the program. We just want to make sense of what really happened and what you should be expecting from Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza Brigade. But most importantly, what do Kenyans stand to gain from all these bipartisan talks? That will be coming later on. But in the evening, one of the biggest and most mouth-watering marathons will be happening. That is the Boston Marathon. And who will be leading the pack? World champion Eliud Kipchoge. Wow, Ethiopians. Give us some peace. Some peace. Kidogo, we want to win this. All right, Ram.
Yes.
Good morning.
You should join Kipchoge, by the way, in supporting him.
Yes, supporting, yes, I can. I will be in the US.
I got you there.
I will be in the US in the evening.
Yes, sir. But we wish them all the best.
Absolutely.
Wish them all the best. And we're glad that Kenya is making footprints or leaving fingerprints across the world. And it's a very good morning to you also from wherever you're watching us from. Thank you for choosing KBC Channel 1. It's a pleasure being with you today on this fine Monday morning. As I want to say, Asante Sana, this is Good Morning Kenya. As Victor has just said, we have a lot in store for you in our program this morning. On my end, we shall be taking a look at matters concerning technology. That's right. It is all about tech and education. E-learning is something that we have been taking a keen interest on. But now, what are the other methods of ensuring that our children are learning through technology? Well, some have come up with a very unique strategy of gaming. That's right, gaming. How they're using gaming to make education entertaining and at the same time understandable. I shall be with Oscar Sitati, the director of Laser Learning Hub, joining us this morning. My name is Ram Maguko. Thank you for choosing KBC Channel 1.
And Marie, will you be in the US in the evening? Utakuwa wapi?
Tutakuwa huko.
Utakuwa huko.
Exactly.
Yeah, nitakuwa kwa ile corner. You see that last stretch, the last stretch?
Exactly, that last stretch is very important.
Yes, that's where I will be. So you'll find me there.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. And it's Monday, the 17th of April. Thank you for making the time to be with us this morning. Among the stories that we'll be following up for you in the news is that the opposition is defending its move to write to the ICC to probe the conduct of the police during the Azimio protest, even as the Inspector General of Police, that is Japheth Koome, terming it intimidation. Details coming up in just a short while in the news. Thank you so much for choosing to start your day with us here on Good Morning Kenya. And we kick off this bulletin where President William Ruto has told the opposition to work and steer the country towards development. The nomination prayer service in Machakos, the bipartisan parliamentary committee discussions.
After taking a 2 weeks break, President William Ruto was back to his routine. The interdenominational Thanksgiving service, this time in Machakos County, bringing together counties from the larger Ukambani region. Reacting to assertions that the opposition will be holding demonstrations parallel to the bipartisan talks, the president called on the opposition to allow him space to work and steer the country's economy devoid of distractions.
Wao walete kamati yao, sisi tumetengeneza kamati yetu, waketi chini, waongee, ile watakubaliana, tupeleke Kenya mbele, lakini waniwachie nafasi nipange mambo ya maendeleo ya taifa letu la Kenya na wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya.
The head of state ruled out any engagement with the opposition outside his proposal of a bipartisan parliamentary process.
Sasa ni wakati wa kushughulika na mambo ya wananchi. Haiwezekani ya kwamba tunamaliza uchaguzi, alafu baada ya uchaguzi badala ya kushughulika na mambo ya wananchi, ati tunaanza tena kushughulika na mambo ya viongozi. Tumekubaliana ndugu zangu watu wa Machakos.
This decision that you made as leaders, as a community, kukataa hii maneno ya kuweka sufuria kichwa na maandamano, mumeheshimika katika Jamhuri ya Kenya.
Being Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka's backyard, President Ruto called for unity of purpose among elected leaders for posterity.
Governor Wavinya, we want to salute you. The decision you have also made as a governor of Machakos is leadership.
Wale MCAs tuko nao, wabunge tulio nao, maseneta, magavana tulio nao, women rep na wale wengine wote, hakuna mtu amechaguliwa kwa bahati mbaya. Sote tumechaguliwa kwa mapenzi ya Mungu.
And we join the church in calling on all leaders in our country that we make every effort to ensure that there is peace and mutual edification in our country.
Na nimekuambia vizuri Mheshimiwa Rais, I am going to work in collaboration with the national government because the constitution is very clear.
So to say that President Ruto's government, which is now 7 months old, is the government that is responsible for all those things, that can't be correct.
Tumekataa mambo ya maandamano na sote tumesema siasa za mtoto wetu tuwache.
Sisi utatusikia katika maneno ya maandamano. We decided that Kamba people have better businesses to do. It is not because we are cowards, we are not cowards.
Na sisi tuko tayari kuendelea na wewe, na viongozi wengine pia wamejitokeza, tumeshikana. Kwa hivyo ukija Ukambani usione kama hauna support.
Sisi Machakos, sisi hatuna maandamano vile, na hatuwezi kubali maandamano, Mheshimiwa Rais.
Owing to a recurring problem of water shortage, the president promised several multi-billion dams in Machakos, Kitui and Makueni for domestic use and irrigation.
Now, Azimio leadership now says it stands by its letter to the International Criminal Court to probe the conduct of police during opposition-led anti-government protest that led to deaths and injuries. Speaking in Nairobi's Kamukunji grounds, the opposition leaders maintain that mass demonstrations will resume amid the bipartisan talks.
On Sunday, the Azimio Brigade was at Kamkunji grounds in Shaurumoyo, Nairobi for its series of public barazas. The leaders faulting the police for what they termed as gross violation of the Constitution of Kenya during the recent anti-government protests.
Fujo inaanzwa na askari wa Bwana Ruto. Hao ndio wameanza fujo, wamepiga watu wetu, hata wameua watu wetu wengine, sio?
Led by Azimio leader Raila Odinga, the leaders stood by their letter to the International Criminal Courts to probe police conduct during the demos.
Tumeandika barua sasa kwa koti kuu ya ulimwengu kule Holanzi, kule ICC. Kwanza mshtakiwa wa kwanza ni Inspector General ya Police.
Ukipanga maovu kwa wengine, maovu inaweza kukurudia. Sisi tunataka kusema pole sana kwa wale wamefiwa kwa maandamano ya Azimio na pia hiyo maandamano ya Chuka.
Mtoto mmoja akapigwa risasi akiwa ghorofa ya 4 kwa sababu alikuwa anaweka maji, na mnajua wa expensive 120 jerrycan ya maji is so expensive, pande ule anatumwagilia na kuimba ule wimbo unitakaze.
The opposition announced that the countrywide anti-government protests will resume amid the bipartisan talks.
Ramadhani kiisha namna hii, tunarudi kwa barabara.
Kama unga haijafika shilingi 100, maandamano yanafanya nini?
Yale madharau wako nayo ni madharau ambayo tunasema tukiwa na idhini yenu ya kwamba rudi kwa maandamano.
Unasema wananchi wamekuchosha na kuvaa sufuria, wawache kuvaa sufuria kwa kichwa. Heri hawa wananchi wanavaa sufuria kwa kichwa kwa sababu hakuna chenye wanapika kwa hiyo sufuria.
Sitasimama maovu ya kitawala.
In the meantime, the Azimio has threatened to boycott bipartisan parliamentary talks on grounds of its member elders lawmaker Adan Keynan being in the Kenya Kwanza list.
Tumesema tutaki kuona sura ya Bwana Keynan. Keynan cannot be a delegation representing Kenya Kwanza. He was elected to parliament on the ticket of Jubilee.
The Azimio leaders now say they will continue to pile pressure to the government to deliver on 3 issues: the issue of cost of living, opening of the servers, and changes in the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, saying they will continue with their protests to ensure the 3 things are taken care of. Timothy Kipnusu, Nairobi.
Timothy Kipnusu reporting there. Now, the Inspector just dismissed by the Azimio La Umoja Coalition, the National Criminal Court, calling for a probe into police conduct during opposition-led anti-government protests. Koome has termed the letter as propaganda meant to intimidate him and his officers.
In the letter to the International Criminal Court by Azimio La Umoja under the representation of Paul Mwangi, the Inspector General of Police Japhet Koome is accused of establishing a special squad of rogue police officers to unleash terror on Azimio supporters during demonstrations. Other allegations include public threats to kill and maim protesters, as well as the alleged attempted assassination of Azimio leader Raila Odinga. However, the Inspector General has dismissed the letter, terming it as propaganda being fronted by a politician targeting a certain community.
Nilikuwa nasikia naangalia tu kwa runinga. Mmeletea hiyo barua leo, nimeisoma, nimeona Koome ametajwa mara karibu 20 kwa hiyo barua. Sasa nashindwa ndugu zanguni. A senior politician spending all the energy mentioning a policeman 20 times. There are better things to do. In that letter, Have they talked about this businessman in Kisumu was crying? Did you see that businessman saying one day is bankrupt?
Koome says that the letter is a ploy to intimidate him and his officers from dispensing their duties to protect life and property.
Us as a National Police Service, we are not at all intimidated by those letters. Therefore, I wish to request my fellow members of the National Police Service not to be intimidated at all by threats to serve our country, to serve our good country, to serve our good people, to serve the many foreign visitors in this country without fear or favor.
Responding to Azimio move to resume holding demonstrations, the IG has vowed to use all means in his power to prevent the destruction of property.
Yeyote atajaribu kuharibu mali, yeyote atajaribu kutishia maisha ya Mkenya mwenzake, hapo nitakuja hapo na nitatumia vifaa zote ambazo nimepewa na Wakenya.
On Saturday, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua came to the defense of the IG following the emergence of the letter, saying the government is fully behind him.
Continue doing your work. You are a very professional IG doing your work professionally. All you did is to protect life and property. Had they not come to the streets, there would have been no issue between the police and the demonstrators.
Welcome to Take on Tech. This is the show that keeps you updated on everything you need to know about technology.
First of all, the women that are already in tech should be empowered.
I've actually studied electrical and electronics engineering, telecommunications option. So basically I'm in the tech sector.
The government should empower the girl child in a way that they should venture so much into ICT.
There's never a dull moment with us. Tune in every Monday from 10:30 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
Wewe nini mbaya na wewe? Umefanya nini wewe sasa? Angalia kile umefanya. Wewe leta pesa.
Kuna nini? Oh, so alikuwa tu mwenda wazimu anatembea looking around for free labor.
Hapa hizo na lori. Repeat. Hapa hizo na lori. Bia wewe.
Chini, piga magoti. Panta. Lori. Choke.
Goja exactly 5 minutes. Kama sitakuwa pale exactly 5 minutes enda. What's the maximum time they're going to go serious? Go serious.
Every Monday evening, we take you back where the action happened live. We'll let you know what you missed, even if you were present.
And our goal is to continue supporting our own.
From the latest celebrity buzz,
fashion,
music,
and all manner of youth talents,
the Grapevine cameras rove all week to bring you the latest in the enormous entertainment scene.
Watch Grapevine every Monday at 10 p.m. and the rerun on Tuesday at 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1, baby.
Engage us on Facebook and Twitter, #Grapevine on KBC. Let us know what is happening in your area code, because you know what they say, if you did not see it on Grapevine,
then it most probably never happened. Bah!
Ain't nobody gotta tell you what you gotta do.
Welcome back. Now, the Interfaith Council of Kenya is now calling on President William Ruto and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader, that is Raila Odinga, to cease grandstanding and give dialogue a chance. The religious leaders say that problems facing the country require a sober approach by all leaders in the interests of the country.
Speaking during an iftar dinner hosted by the Interfaith Council of Kenya themed Strengthening Interfaith Harmony for National Cohesion, the clerics, led by SUPKEM Chairman Hassan Ole Nado, have urged leaders to embrace a selfless attitude and give dialogue a chance to address the issues of concern to the country.
We want to urge these teams, as we are waiting these groups to come together and maybe they work on their kind of the roadmap. We are calling upon them to maintain peace and also give that dialogue a chance. I think it is premature to call for the demonstration at this point when already the teams have been formed. We are all of us as Kenyans watching what's going to take place. We are watching the conversations, and we expect that despite the challenges that we are facing as a country, we should not make it worse.
We remain united as the religious leaders, but also we advance, human conscious for peace, especially this time when we are having some difficult times in our country.
What we have been going through as a nation, I would want to say these are dynamics of life, and we are very grateful that we are talking, because dialogue is the way out. Peace knows no religion, it knows no color. Peace is universal. And so my plea to everyone, all of us, this is a collective adventure, that the gains that we have had in this nation are so big that we cannot let down our guard, we cannot leave our watchtower.
Elsewhere, a section of religious and political leaders in Siaya are calling on the country's political leadership to embrace dialogue to reduce political tension in the country. Led by Maseno West Anglican Diocese Bishop Reverend John Mark Godia, the religious leaders are appealing to Kenyans not to go back to the streets, but allow talks to yield a solution to the issues affecting them.
It's our appeal that we do not go back to the streets, but continue until we can get a solution to the issues that are affecting Kenyans. Going to the streets will not solve our problems, but when we sit and talk, we can be able to find solutions to our problems as people that live in one nation.
Elsewhere, Siaya Governor James Orengo now says the bipartisan talks between the government and the opposition should not be held on the basis of parity and equality if the country is to benefit from the negotiations. Orengo said that the government team must not approach the negotiating table with a feeling of supremacy, saying this will have a negative outcome.
And there must be a face of women and people who are living with disability. When we're having conversations, we must involve the church. The church is very important. But in this current state of affairs, you will find that the appointments that are being made is just for one particular community. We're not saying that that community is not entitled. But as Kenyans, we are all entitled.
Finally, a war of words ensued on between Azimio la Umoja One Kenya leaders and the Kenya Kwanza during a rally in Kilifi County, with the nominee of the bipartisan committee, Amina Mnyazi, firing at the Kenya Kwanza government to accept positive criticism from the opposition.
Kwa chakula, lakini tunasema bado tunataka pia stima irudi, tunataka bei ya maji pia irudi. Kuandamana ni haki yetu pia ya kikatiba. Kama tutaona mambo hayaendi sawa, tutafanya nini? Kama mambo hayaendi sawa, tutafanya nini? Tutazungumza, na kama musikii kuandamana, tutaandamana.
In a rejoinder, Public Service Cabinet Secretary Aisha Jumwa defended President Ruto's government, urging the opposition to be honest about the cost of living debate.
Lazima tuseme ukweli. Aliyepandisha unga na maisha kuwa magumu ni Raila na Uhuru Kenyatta. Na hao Mheshimiwa Ruto miezi 7 ndani ya serikali, kutoka unga 240 leo unga umeshuka umefika 180.
Now, at least 13 people died and several others were injured in a road accident at the Josa area along the Wundanyi-Mwatate Road in Taita Taveta County after the driver of a bus carrying a group of mourners lost control. The bus then rolled down a slope. The mourners were traveling to Mombasa after attending a funeral in Mgamboni.
Sasa mimi kashuka nikaenda mbele. Kukaa pale break kumalizika baada ya dakika 5 sikumaliza. Tukaribia slope posa kwa driver. Mbona bado una accelerate bwana, kuna mteremko hapa mbele. Driver ni kama alikuwa amelewa kiasi. Kwa sababu ni mtu wa Mugoka, alinunua pakiti kama 10 hapo asubuhi na fegi pakiti 2. Alafu asemekana kama alionja kijipombe huko. Sasa kumwambia sijamaliza, sasa huyu jamaa asubuhi kwa tumeongea, yasema yeye ni expert. Amefanya kazi, amefanya highway miaka mingi sana. So
tukaendelea, gari ilikuwa imebeba capacity mpaka wawili watatu walikuwa ni kama wamesimama. Sio kusema ilikuwa ni excess kwa sababu kuangalia nyuma kama kuna nafasi za viti, lakini ilikuwa wamesimama watu watatu.
Wananchi, wakati wa tukio kama hili, sote tuwe kitu kimoja, kama ule mfano watu walionyesha jana baada ya hii ajali. Manake kila mmoja alijitolea mali alikuwa anaweza.
Our condolences to the families who lost their loved ones and quick recovery to those who were injured. Now, Information, Communication, Technology and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo is calling for a paradigm shift in politics in Nyanza, a predominantly opposition zone. Owalo wants the region to join UDA and position itself as a major stakeholder in the Kenya Kwanza government going forward. Saying UDA will win the 2027 poll, Owalo urged residents not to be left out of the government again. He said he said this as he met farmers drawn from sugar, cotton and rice growing region from Nyanza at his rural home in Raredia in Siaya County.
Just sit down. For a second day running, the home of the Information, Communication, Technology and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo in Asembo, Raredia constituency was a beehive of activities as he continues with sector-focused discourse.
The President has given us the script, and we have taken the cue from him that the mandate of the Kenya Kwanza government right now is to address the challenges facing the common mwananchi. And as his appointees, we are ready and willing to do everything that is humanly possible to make sure that within this term of the current Ruto government, we have fundamental change in the Nyanza region by way of economic development.
A day after he met teachers union officials drawn from Nyanza, the cabinet secretary today played host to farmers representatives drawn from the sugar, cotton and rice sectors. The farmers spelling out challenges bedeviling agriculture in the region and the expectations from Kenya Kwanza government.
When you go to the sugar factories, they have one umbrella apex institution. But when you come to the sugarcane farmers, we have several umbrella apex institutions. This has created a lot of confusion in the sugar industry and even in the farmer leadership.
Sugar farmers calling for the passage of the sugar bill that will see a raft of changes in the sector that include reintroduction of the sugar board and the sugar development levy.
We have Moroni Sugar Company which collapsed but to date is still under receivership. Bwana Waziri, that receivership, the farmers yesterday were also pleading with the government that curtain of receivership, it's a high time. They have been under receivership for almost 30 years.
Owalo reiterating government stand on ensuring a conducive environment for farmers to flourish.
So we are no longer interested in retrogressive politics day in, day out.
That one we have done for the past 60 years. It has not taken us anywhere. Let us talk about politics of the economy. Yeah. Are we together? Siasa ya uchumi. Ili pesa ingie kwa mfuko. Mfuko ya mkulima, mfuko ya mwalimu na wengine.
He called on young residents to support UDA and the government.
And let me also steal for you the exam, because I know the secret. Let me give you more Kenya. This Ruto government will also form the 2027 government. Based on delivery to the common mwananchi, based on performance. We will deliver to the people and we will get a resounding yes vote again in 2027. Yes. Sasa tutafanya kazi na serikali ama tutashinda kwa mwaka 10 tukibeba sufuria kwa barabara?
The government has expressed commitment to support the scouting movement in Kenya. Speaking during the official opening ceremony of the first ever African Rover Moot at Rowaland National Scout Camp here in Nairobi, Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts Cabinet Secretary, that is Ababu Namwamba, said scouting plays a critical role in shaping the current and future generations.
Since during the official opening of the first Africa ever Rover Moot, scouts drawn from over 30 countries across the globe can't hide their delight. However happy they might be, it took them rigorous processes to be here.
Anybody who have come to this camp, they have attended a course we call Safe from Harm. Scouting, we are very keen to make sure that our camp is safe.
The rovers will be taken through a 10-day training which will focus on innovations, adventure, internal exposure and environment.
And these 10 days, I can assure them, will be full of activities.
On its part, the government, through the Ministry of Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts, has embraced the event and expressed its readiness to host and nurture rovers both locally and globally.
To confirm full support by government for the scouting movement in Kenya and globally.
The Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba further said that his ministry will give the scouting unit in the country a huge focus, given that it is one of the main keys in promoting patriotism in the country.
We have made the strategic decision to support the scouting movement as part of our broader effort to develop young people, to give young people space, to give young people leadership roles at the earliest opportunity possible, and also to develop their talents. You know, when you talk about the scouting movement, you're talking about building character, you're talking about preparing young people for leadership roles, to be responsible citizens.
Now, a family in Puri, Imenti North, Meru County, is appealing for financial aid to take their kin to India for a heart surgery. Chris Jabali, aged 1 year and 3 months, has a hole in his heart and requires 2.5 million shillings for treatment. The funds will also cover transport and accommodation.
Chris Jabali, aged 1 year, 3 months, is struggling with a heart condition after being diagnosed with a hole in his heart. According to the family who spoke to us at their rural home in Mpuri, Meru County, his predicament started as a normal nose blockage which became consistent.
Nilipeleka kliniki ya kwanza, nikapata hajaongeza kilo, nikaanza kushangaa ni nini. Na alikuwa na koa sana. Hata ukimsikiza akipumua, ulikuwa unasikia anapumua ni kama mtu amefungana kwa kifua.
Later, after several medical checkups, it turned out to be a heart condition.
Yule daktari wa Kakana alikuwa mzuri kwa sababu alituangalia tena bila kutucharge pesa yoyote. Lakini sasa alisema hiyo shimo yenye kwa moyo haifungiki na itabidi mtoto afanywe upasuaji kwa moyo.
Tumekuwa kwa madaktari kadhaa na wametueleza kwamba mtoto atahitaji upasuaji na upasuaji huo unafaa ufanyike India.
The family is now appealing to any well-wisher to help them raise 2.5 million Kenyan shillings that will facilitate the medical expense for the little Jabali in India as they are unable to raise the amount.
Hapo ndio tumefika na Chris. Tumeuza kila kitu.
Tuko na madeni kila mahali. Hatujui tuanzie wapi na mtoto ndio anaendelea kukua.
Kwangu mimi kazi ambayo naifanya hela ambazo napata ni kidogo sana, haziwezi fika kunisaidia kugharamia hiyo upasuaji.
To support Chris Jabali Medical Fund, you can send your contributions to M-Pesa paybill number 6302121, account number Jabali.
Wito wangu ni mtu yote ambaye anaweza kuwa ananiona kama familia, atusaidie mtoto wetu aweze kutibiwa.
It's the cry of a mother, the cry of a parent. If you're able, do support that family. Now, Kenya on Sunday joined the rest of the world in marking this year's Good Deeds Day, with corporate organizations and Kenyans being urged to participate more in volunteer work. The Good Deeds Day organization Kenya chapter also called for legislation and policies to streamline corporate social responsibility.
According to the United Nations Volunteers Research, the contribution of volunteerism to the economy is largely invisible, with figures estimating that volunteers in Kenya contribute an average of 670 million hours per year, or equivalent to 3.66% of the country's gross domestic product. It is these very statistics that indicate how much volunteering is still needed in the country.
You can find an organization, whether corporate or civil society, who have a lot of staff, or very few staff, but they are having high skills. And then we have a struggling community organization within our small informal settlements, or even in our rural areas. So we encourage them to go and give that expertise to these younger ones.
Speaking at this year's Good Deeds Day celebrations in Nairobi, lack of awareness on where and when to volunteer was recognized as among the challenges hindering volunteer work in Kenya. The government, on its part, is looking to encourage more entities to volunteer as an added CSR activity.
We, as government, we are supposed to celebrate, come together like we have done today, eat together, do free work like sweeping in hospital, in the streets.
Good Deeds Day has been celebrated in Kenya since 2017, led and co-hosted by the Volunteer Involving Organization Society.
We decided to appreciate it, acknowledge it, and mark it as an internationally recognized day for volunteers, for organizations, and for everyone who's doing something to impact another fellow.
The global event has been able to allow over 200 organizations across the country to champion doing good to humanity and the environment.
We now go to sports, where Kenya's Timothy Kiplagat finished second in this year's edition of the Rotterdam Marathon held yesterday in Netherlands. Kenyan-born Bahraini Yunus Chuma and Belgium-based Abdi Bashir were crowned the champions of this year's race.
Kenya's Timothy Kiplagat finished second after clocking 2 hours, 3 minutes and 50 seconds, almost 2 minutes faster than his previous personal best. Abdi Bashir of Belgium emerged victorious in 2 hours, 3 minutes and 48 seconds, while Abdi Nagih from Netherlands clocked 2 hours, 5 minutes and 32 seconds to finish third. Kenyan-born Bahrain Yunus Chumba took control in the women's race before extending her lead over the rest of the competitors to win with a gap of over a minute. Teshfu Dolshi of Eritrea finished second with a time of 2 hours, 21 minutes and 35 seconds, while Rose Chelimo, a Bahrain runner born in Kenya, secured third place with a time of 2 hours, 26 minutes and 21 seconds. Tomorrow, 6 Kenyan elite runners led by world marathon record holder Eliud Kipchoge will take part in the 127th edition of the Boston Marathon in the United States. Kipchoge is seeking to win his major marathon title in the United States since winning Chicago Marathon title in 2014. In the women's category, Helen Obiri will be making her debut in the race. Kenya's two-time Boston Marathon winner Edna Kiplagat will be making her return, as well as Ethiopia's Ababel Yeshmane and Kenya's Mary Ngugi, who finished second and third respectively in Boston last year.
Well, that sports story brings us to the end of the news this morning. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning. But don't go away. If you can, we still have a lot more lined up for you. Victor Law is in studio together with our guests, ready to review or to talk to you about what is happening in the political arena on Eye on Politics. From me, it's goodbye for now, but do stay updated with our news later on in the day. Until another day, God willing, do have a great day.
All right, thank you so much, Marie. Okay, so today we'll be having a very candid conversation here, matters politics and what we should be looking forward to in the coming week. But before then, let me take you through the front page of our local dailies. I've got 3 newspapers. I've got the Daily Nation, the Star, and the Standard newspaper. Let me start with the Daily Nation. On the front page, healthcare costs choking families. That is what's on the front page. Healthcare costs choking families. There's that figure of 21,900 amount that a patient is now required to pay annually for a standard daily dose of a tablet for Losartan HAP from 3,500 previously. And of course, insurers are now urging patients to go for a cheaper generic medicines, the cost of healthcare in the country. And now the cost of healthcare in Kenya has shot up sharply as the impact of a heavily weakened shilling raised the overall prices of imported medicines, surgical supplies, and of course medical equipment by up to an average of 15%, piling more pressure on the medical bills of millions of Kenyans and households already scorched by a high cost of living. Still on the front page, Jose Kamago is here, claims Raila Odinga. Jose Kamago is here. Azimio leader Raila Odinga yesterday claimed that 4 Venezuelans, including an individual identified as Jose Kamago, were in the country to tamper with the 2022 election service. That is what is on the front page. Details shortly. Tragic story of Mukumu Girls' health woes. Tragic story of Mukumu Girls' health woes. It's now that I wish this is now happening, as many now know the students who are actually from Mukumu Girls are still, some of them are still hospitalized, and a number of deaths so far reported after the school reported an ailment and sickness that attacked the students a week and a half ago. I will not be cowed by Azimio's ICC threats, says police boss Japheth Koome. I won't be cowed by Azimio's ICC threats, says Koome. Details shortly. And still on that issue of Raila Odinga said that Kamago back to tinker with poll data in IBC servers. Now Raila claims Kamago back to tinker with the poll data in IEBC servers. Raila claims. Mr. Odinga claimed that the individuals have met CA chairman Ezra Chiloba and former IEBC boss Wafula Chebukati. And Raila, let me quote, "We have information that the mercenaries who accessed the servers during the elections, one of them, Jose Kamago, are in the country." And addressing a rally at the historic Kamkunji grounds in Nairobi, Mr. Odinga said that they have tracked the individuals to Masai Mara Lodge, where he said they are currently residing as they continue with their quote-unquote illegal operations. And now Mr. Odinga claimed that the individuals have also met Communications Authority of Kenya chairperson Ezra Chiloba and former Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission chairperson IBC chair Wafula Chebukati. Those are claims by Raila Odinga. Kalonzo rejected my job offers, says Ruto. Kalonzo rejected my job offers, says Ruto. Azimio co-principal was to be the National Assembly Speaker or Foreign Affairs CS. And yesterday the president was speaking in Machakos, where he said that Mr. Kalonzo Musyoka turned down the job offer. Wiper Democratic Movement Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka would have become either the Speaker of the National Assembly or Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary. had he agreed to work with the Kenya Kwanza administration after last year's general election. And now President William Ruto says that his deputy Rigathi Gachagua also said yesterday in Machakos during an interdenominational prayer that they tried to woo Mr. Musyoka rather, and his lieutenants who did not bear fruit. So they now blame it on Kalonzo Musyoka. Okay, that is on the Daily Nation. But finally, Kome, I will not be cowed by Azimio's ICC threats. Coalition wants the IG probed over police conduct during the anti-government protest. It says that police officers will continue doing their job. Right about now, let me introduce my guest in studio for us to get their feel and mic testing, starting with Senator Tabitha Mutinda. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You were in Machakos yesterday.
Correct.
What happened that, as in media, we did not highlight in the bulletin?
I think you captured everything, and we really prayed and thought, thank God for the wonderful rain.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Alex Manyasi, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Karibu sana.
But I'm still around. Asante sana.
Karibu. And as well as Christine, daughter of the land. She calls herself daughter of the land. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Victor.
Karibu sana. So we are just taking a look at what is here. Raila claims that Jose Camargo is in the country. Let me start with you, Christine. Ladies first. Alex, I don't want to answer questions of gender parity. You and I, we can sort this off air. Why I didn't start with you. But for them, I'll not win that war. Let me start with Christine. Christine, Camargo is back to the country to tinker with the election poll data, according to Raila Odinga. Can we buy this? Or should we buy this?
At this point, I think there's quite a lot that it's under speculation. But let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. I think as a Kenyan, we have been a hopeful people. So let's see what happens. Maybe this is hot air, or maybe it's actually something that is going to really hasten the process of the bipartisan approach.
Yeah. And Senator, you also having that same thought that Jose Camargo is the country, or is it just politics?
You know, Victor, where we are as a country, we have quite a number of important things to focus on where our economy is. And if the opposition are not able to understand their role and what they're supposed to do, we are a country with mature people, mature leaders, and we cannot be discussing matters, speculation and assumptions. You know, if these people, as he claims, they're in this country, then it should not be speculation. It's just bring them out and point them out and say, these people are here, this is what they are going to be doing, facts. But we cannot be dealing on matters of assumptions as leaders. It is very wrong, because what then direction are you giving Kenyans? So those are just things that are not having basis and lack of focuses. And it's sad to see the opposition talking and dealing with things that when you look at them, you wonder, where is the focus? Today it's Unga, tomorrow it's Sufuria on the head, tomorrow is Camargo is in this place, just rotating matters, election, that we are 7 months past that. They had an opportunity to go to the Supreme Court, it was ruled, it was hot air. Then now you still want to take Kenyans back 7 months ago, and people are actually focused on what needs to be delivered by the president.
Alex Manyasi, this also captured on the front page of the Sun newspaper. Venezuelans back to quote-unquote clean server. Now Raila Odinga claims President Ruto asked Azimio leaders to give dialogue a chance. What do you make of that?
First of all, I think there is freedom of travel to start with. I could travel to any country as long as I have a visa, have a passport that is valid, and it could be, you could travel on tourism, you could travel on other reasons. It could also be business, and therefore travel in itself does not mean that it has to be ill intentions, so to speak. And therefore, by all purposes and intent, having mentioned Chiloba and the former IBC chair, even if that was the case, then everything else is at this point speculative. And so if you want to think about it in terms of matters of elections, elections, servers, opening and closing of servers, denying of access, those things have been with us for quite some time. And therefore, you will expect that such persons being in the country, if that is the case, they will always trigger such conversations. However, like I said, I think even if they were in the country, then you will also say that anybody can travel to any country they want as long as it's within the legal premises.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was just a voiced and mic test. All right. On the front page of the Star newspaper, Venezuelans back to clean server. Raila now claims, and now says that team allegedly being moved around in hotels in the country. President Ruto asked Azimio leaders to give dialogue a chance. He was speaking yesterday in Machakos. Found CCTV video helped snail suspect in student's murder. And now the two suspects who were traced in the hideout in Kariobangi North. This was after John Gichonyi was waiting for a matatu to the city where along Thika Road in Nairobi when thugs pounced and left him with fatal wounds on the evening of February 5th. Now the suspect have been arrested. Venezuelans back in the country in Kenya to clean polls. Server Raila now claims he was speaking yesterday at the Kamkunji grounds. Let me quote him: "The mercenaries who tampered with the servers led by Jose Camargo came here and they are still here. They're living in a Kileleshwa hotel, but where they learned that we had smoked them out, they were moved to Karen. They have now been taken to Masai Mara. There are 4 people." That's according to Raila Odinga. Okay, and a lot is happening in the political world. How education officials bungled 1.1 billion shillings school fees cash. Sad state of affairs there. Auditor General Gadongo raises procurement irregularities in multi-billion shillings deal. Treasury CS to face lawmakers over plan to sell state entities. Legislators oppose the decision to trade parastatals without involving Parliament. That is what is here. Senators back bill seeking to tame runaway pending bills in counties. Something that I think we'll be taking a look later on. And now, finally, I won't be cowed by ICC threats, says IG Japheth Koome. Says opposition letter to the court is motivated by tribalism. And finally, on the Standard newspaper, return of caning, teachers go rogue. Return of caning, teachers go rogue. Whereas corporal punishment is banned in schools, cases of learners being beaten to a point of seeking medical attention are rising. And now this could, the tutors be taking matters into their own hand at the peril of learners? That is the question. Azimio to report Gashaga to ICC on the front page. And finally, Eliud Kipchoge, Boston Marathon. We must watch that. We all agree to that.
Yeah.
We all supporting. For this one, we are Kenyans. Eliud Kipchoge. And I said, please, Ethiopians, we need to take this home. Hey, you guys, we need to bring back this, all right? Yeah. Eliud Kipchoge, we celebrate you. Do your best. And all Kenyans in the marathon, we wish you all the best. It's not an easy thing. Much as we're talking politics, please do your thing there. And let's change the discussion for the next few days to come. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be diving straight into the discussion shortly.
Leta na badate. Geni akili yangu umenichezea.
Ukipata mkuu yako imekuwa ya kondo, usiniulize.
Nini mbaya na wewe? Unakutu tamara. Who are you?
Hii inaitwa tester. Na test kama mimi iko na simu ama hakuna.
Kuna mwangaza huku nje. Hata ni mchoro umechau kwa sababu tiri yako mfunguka. Mama bado nimechawa.
Si wewe ndio naye?
Ndio ni huyu. Ngia bwana. Si mimi.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the hustler fund?
Will your children sleep hungry when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table?
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
Perhaps you and I will never see each other again. But please don't tell me to go to another man and get away from me. You don't want me to hate you?
Go and tell your mother to send me right away all her overdue bills and all of her promissory notes. I'll be sure to take care of them. I appreciate all of them, but you know I can forget about all of that if you would simply allow yourself to give us both another chance.
But what will you do with your life?
All I know is that one day I will settle the score with Olegario Banton.
And Zenaida, tell her that she has to leave this house.
All right, welcome back. Okay, so let's get into the real discussion here. Matters national politics and what we should expect in the coming days. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need to make sense of what is happening. The bipartisan talks somehow is, taking some kind of steps back. They started with a lot of gusto and, energy. But so far, we are seeing a bit of, nothing is happening. But my biggest question is, at the end of the day, we have got 14 people who are going to be leading the talks on behalf of the two gentlemen. That is Raila Odinga and President William Ruto. But then the question is, who stands to benefit? Where is the point where Mwananchi will feel fully represented and their voice is articulated during that talk? Let me start with you, Senator. In the Senate, whenever you have a discussion on the floor of the House, the question is, do you have the mind and the thoughts of Mwananchi at heart?
Victor, let me say that we represent the people, and our discussion always mind the people and focus on the welfare of the people, the economic issues, social issues of the people. On the bipartisan matter, one, I thank the president so much because in his wisdom, he actually welcomed the opposition and told them, my brothers, instead of putting the sufuria on your head, your leaders, come on table, let us have a discussion. Let me hear what you're voicing out so that we can be able to discuss these matters. Instead of going to the road, come we sit down. And one of the requirements was from Azimio, let us put, our members of parliament, seven. And as we speak, last week we had a PG, and we put, or the president announced our team, both from Senate and both from the National Assembly. And we have our team in place. Azimio has their team in place. And apparently the matters that Azimio have brought on table, the priority was not the UNGA factor. The priority, one of the priorities was Chirera 4. Can these people come back to office? Can they be recalled? These people resigned willingly. Nobody forced them. They willingly decided to resign. How can that be an agenda? Yet when you put a Sufuria, you're saying the cost of living and the UNGA issue.
Yeah.
Number two, on the same, they're talking about the server issues, open the server. Surely we are 7 months down the line after elections. And this server issue that they're talking about, we have 290 constituencies. By now, they should be saying constituency A, B, or C. These are the issues, actually, that are in place. So we want the server to be open so that we can be able to confirm these issues. There's nothing like that, you know. Then least they're talking about the IEBC. And something that we've said, no problem, let us hear what they want to discuss on table. But they need to note that at the end of the day, it is the people who make the choices. It is not the machines in IBC, the gadgets that will make the decision. It is the people who decide, their leaders, and that's how it has been. So, looking at this discussion, that we as Kenya Kwanza, we are ready to have a discussion. But yesterday, they're in Kamukunji, talking to the people, telling the people, we are going to have, in Swahili we say mazungumzo, and they're also saying we are going to have mazungumzo and maandamano at the same time. Like seriously, if we really deep inside, if we're really doing it for the Kenyans, if you really want a discussion, and you've actually proposed and we've welcomed, the president has welcomed the idea, there should be a sitting, not maandamano and also mazungumzo. Then what results are we going to expect? Because you're still going to bring the anger in place.
Yeah.
This bipartisan, as you actually read earlier, the main agenda and the main goal should be the issues that pertain Wanjiko, should be the issues that pertain Wananchi, but not personal issues that we are seeing that are trying to be put on table for the leaders' interest. From where we sit, we say as Kenya Kwanza, we want a strong opposition. That is what the president has said.
Okay.
We want them to check. And also, the president has also welcomed the office of the opposition, so that he's comfortable, is able to do his work as an opposition.
What is the president's concern? When you had your PG last week on Monday,
yes,
what are the president's concern?
The concern that is coming out is what Azimio is trying to bring on table. These issues that I've talked about, the server issues, you know, the Chirera issues, people who, as I've said earlier, they actually reside willingly. The issue of UNGA has not been the priority for Azimio as far as this bipartisan is concerned. It is sort of the last issue that the cost of UNGA should just go down. But you see, this cost of UNGA, the UNGA that you and me buy in the shop, does not just land there. It goes through a manufacturing process. Yeah. We go back and look at the cost of production that we as a country, the president is focusing on reducing, because this cost of UNGA is not just going to come from 180 to 150 in a 24-hour night shift, but there is a process in how these other costs are going to be put down. Yesterday we were in Machakos. We had a very wonderful prayer, and the leaders were able to communicate. And I'm happy for the governor of Machakos. She pointed out and said, we are happy to be in opposition. Okay, we don't have a problem. Let the opposition be in opposition. Let the government be in government. Because handshake manenos is not something that we are encouraging. Because then, why are we in this period of time in 2023 whereby we should be embracing the government that is there? Because then why do we go for elections? Okay. Then we should just be able to pinpoint leaders from their houses and say, person A will be the president, person B will be the deputy, this one will be this, and then there's no need for elections.
Okay. Yeah. Let me get your point here, Manyasi. We have legislators forming part of that, the caucus and the committee. But then the question is, when Azimio called for the national code kind of approach, what's so hard in picking quote-unquote local mwananchi from outside to be part of that committee, what stops the members to include the common mwananchi? When I say common mwananchi, I'm talking about people who are not members of parliament. We have got professionals, we have got experts, we have got the clergy who are also, you know, have got some kind of sound mind to sit in that committee. What stops them from including them in that committee?
The simple answer is because they have to be headliners. That's where it starts. You want someone that you're sure will not be swayed once they've gotten into the meeting room. And that's part of the problem. Because then you end up with a category of people that are you want almost everything minus nothing, in the sense that you want to make sure that if the instructions are get home with A, you don't get home with anything less than an A. That's why it's always about politicians. Then secondly, you know, some of these conversations are about how much most of these things are political in nature. And so the political part will take 90% of room, and the 10% will be about other reasons that come with it. And so that also explains why it has to be politician. But having said that, I think also, if you think about the different places where these conversations happened, we can make comparisons. For example, countries like Israel, every election cycle, they almost go through this every time. But you see, for them, they are a better mature democracy because they have a way of handling it. And their differences don't collapse the economy, unlike us, where for us differences will mean the economy suffers. We have to go to the streets, we have to steal personal property, to make it look like there's chaos, to force conversations, to force discussions. For us, that has to go, it has to go that way. But again, if you compare with other democracies like the US, we've had instances where we've had presidents in the US who are not necessarily majority in terms of the votes. And yet people have moved on, and they have moved on with their lives as if nothing happened. Someone is sworn in and they continue ruling the country. So it depends. But in the African context, and especially in Kenya, we have a challenge that we need to deal with, and which is, at what point do we, in the last two elections, we were told that we were doing very well in terms of democracy, and most of the other countries were giving reference to us. For those of us who traveled a bit, when people hear that you're a Kenyan, there's a certain respect that comes with it. But I would wish that we don't take that down the drain by destroying the very respect that we're trying to get out there. So hopefully that's what we're going to get along the way.
Okay. Christine, the youth is not represented. Basically, when you look at that representation and all that, they continue to say the future belongs to the youth. But from where you sit, do you think the youth have a voice put there?
Well, first again, I'd like to thank the President, because for once we have a direction. Initially, everybody was saying, let's have discussions, let's have dialogues, but then we didn't know what that would look like. And I'm happy that now the President came out and said, let's have a bipartisan parliamentary approach. And that by itself limits participation, because then it takes a legislative angle, and then that means that it's only limited to legislators. And so maybe it's also a time for us to really look deeper into the issues, and as opposed to looking internally, we also focus on looking outside and really having the issues being addressed come forth, not by the politicians, because like my colleagues have said, it's taking a political approach. But then you realize that's the same thing we had when we had the first handshake in 2008. And as a peace builder, looking at it from a conflict transformation, conflict resolution aspect, you realize that we are doing a lot of conflict management. in the sense that it's the parties that are conflicting that we're bringing to the table and then they're discussing, but we're not really addressing the relationships that are needed to transform from this conflict. We are focusing on the issues that are not necessarily bearing a lot of fruits because of the nature of the conflicts that we're experiencing here in Kenya.
And in this context, what is the conflicts? Because the question I also asked, what are we going to do? Because next 10, 2050, we still have elections.
Right.
And are we going to normalize this kind of boardroom discussions after an election? You wait 1, 2, 3 months, and then we are in the same kind of situation we are in today.
That's exactly why we need it to be a whole of society approach and not just particular people, because then tomorrow we have her as a senator. Tomorrow she's not the senator. Today you have me as a young person. Tomorrow I'm not a young person. You see? So if we really focus on having particular political interests being addressed, then we lose the point of having a national agenda that outlives us. And so then, how then do we start then having a conversation that transcends individuals, transcends people's political issues to a national agenda where Wanjiku is represented, Wafula on the ground also has a say to it. I've seen a lot of the public participation that are going around, but you also realize the agenda setting is mostly political. And so now it's time that as Kenyans we really look into these handshakes. And as you're saying, 15 years from now, this is 15 years later after we had the 2008 Kofi Annan agreement. What are we telling to this 15-year-old who is now 3 years away from voting and who have seen all this transition happening but no change, no transformation happening? And as young people, that's really what we want. We want transformation. We don't want the same issues. I mean, we have a lot of energy to be contained in issues that do not even benefit us in the first place.
Alex Manyasi, do you think it would have taken a kind of a public participation approach, the way they had the BBI going around the counties and taking the memoranda and all that, so that at the end of the day, both sides have, their points well articulated, instead of having a boardroom kind of affair? They'd say, okay, sir, we have got a white smoke, this is it.
If I was in power, I wouldn't allow that to happen.
What exactly?
Because that will take away, you can't create a referendum for yourself in the process by trying to involve the citizen in such a conversation. Because first of all, you lose control in terms of what can be said versus what cannot be said. But when it's a conversation that is closed, then it's about the issues that are being raised at that specific moment in time. Because again, in terms of, if you look at the election results, you will see that it was a very close contest between the two sides.
Yes.
And so, again, you don't want to go into opening up such conversations because ultimately you have a government in place that is duly elected, that went through all the processes. Our constitution, by the way, our current constitution has a lot of safeguards in terms of even when you take office. Even when you say that you won the election today, you don't take office today because there are certain things that have to be done, including giving opportunity for court processes. And so once you have a government in place, like I said, we sit in a unique place, and our democracy, but the democracy is not something that you can say is a one-fit-all kind of affair. And that's why I was giving an example of the US, for example, and Israel. Two different, very good democracies, and yet in terms of the way they manage their affairs, it's very different. Israel will always have this conflict, and they sometimes you have Netanyahu in, Netanyahu out, kind of thing, and yet on the other side, the US, the election is closed, it's closed, you wait for another 4 years. So you see, these are two democracies that are doing very well. However, the only hope that we have is that one day we'll get to a point where our systems are so good such that even if we have conflict at the political level, that does not affect how service delivery happens. If you look at the UK, for instance, the UK has had a lot of challenges, but the economy was moving. However, in the UK example, you will see that whoever becomes prime minister has a lot of influence in terms of the decisions they make, which are economic in nature. And therefore, that change in itself will likely affect the economy of the country and by extension the citizenry. So I think it's us to decide how we want to mold our democracy and how we want to run our society without comparisons. However, if you look at countries like Uganda, Tanzania, what's the difference between them and Kenya? Of course, they are smaller democracies, they are smaller economies. But the difference is that those two countries have more availability of food that is grown locally, that doesn't require a lot of intervention. And that's the difference between Kenya and these other two countries in terms of what becomes emotive. In Kenya, when there's a problem with food, there's a likelihood that the cost of living will go up immediately, inflation will go up, and there's a possibility that people will feel it more. In Uganda, people will eat bananas and pineapples, and they forget that Museveni exists, and life will move on, unlike here.
Okay. Senator, what's your take?
Let me actually start by responding to your concern in terms of the bipartisan, whereby you think that the youths are not represented. The youth is represented because one of the senators, Senator S.C. Okenyuri, is one of our youths in Senate.
Yes.
Also Senator Sige, and they take that part. I've also seen, yes, your concern in terms of the other bodies, the church, and these are bodies that are also opened to be welcome. But the first requirement was the seven. And still remember, we as the members of parliament are also the representatives of Wanjiko. It is Wanjiko who has given us these offices, so we represent the same people. But the issues that the way Azimio was bringing out this issue was whereby they would focus on going for a referendum kind of thing. And as Alex says, that is opening room for, continuous politicking until, almost the 5 years are coming to an end, and giving Kenyans an environment that is for politics throughout. Yeah. And then what will we be achieving as a government? Because one thing you need to note, as I've said earlier, the issues that Azimio has prioritized. And they have prioritized issues of opening of the server. They've prioritized Chirera 4. They've also talked about bringing in Kofi Annan. But we are not having any crisis. We are having personal interest, their own interest. Because even the issue of UNGA that is coming in place, it's until we give the government time to be able to put in place the strategies for agriculture that is also a devolved function. And as we've seen, the government has also provided room for subsidized fertilizers, because these are the things that are going to ensure during the production process, the costs are going to go down, and then the cost of the commodities is also going to go down. Yeah. I agree the cost of living is high. That one is agreeable. Also, our debt as a country at national level is also very high. And one of the main focuses is to ensure by the president that we reduce this debt. He has mentioned earlier that he doesn't want to keep on borrowing to actually pay salaries. Okay, but he wants to focus on ensuring that this debt is going down. So the structure that he has accepted by the president, by putting this bipartisan to come on table, should also be what Azimio is focusing on. Yeah. Because saying that they are still going back to the streets, then where are we? Then why are we going back? We're trying to move forward. The president has actually, with his wisdom, has actually, let me say, bowed down and we are Kenyans, we are all one family. And he has categorically stated, for him as the president, it doesn't matter who voted for him, who did not for him. He's serving us as Kenyans. And a very good example is Machakos, where we were yesterday. Yes. And Ukambani, we did not really give the president a very bigger percentage, and we accept. It was about, about 20%, and he was there yesterday, and he said, yes, I know that but it is okay because everybody has a choice of right to whom they want to vote as their leader. Yeah. And the earlier question you asked me, what did the media miss? Then they missed that. Because the president said, I don't have a problem. Every Kenyan has a right to vote for whoever they want to vote. It is his right as the president to serve all Kenyans. Correct. Because it is not written in our foreheads that you voted for person A, B, and C, such that when you're going to buy this unga, because you voted Kenya Kwanza, your unga price should be this. And because you voted Azimio, your unga price should be. That is not the case. The cost of unga is affecting you equally as much as affecting me and affecting Wanjiko. There's no price of unga that is for senators, one for Wanjiko. It is for us as Kenyans. We are all Kenyans, and let us embrace. I personally, as a leader, I am advocating for talks. I'm advocating for discussion, but for the betterment of Wanjiko, not for personal betterments. Today, yes, I appreciate I can be able to afford my packet of unga, but what about the Wanjiko? If I come on table and say, first, what I want, we discuss is a handshake, then really, are we putting the needs of Wanjiko
that handshake could mean so many things, Senator.
Number two, no.
Handshake to bring cost of living?
But you say what? Yes.
And handshake to bring a truce between the two principles?
No, handshake is going to bring personal interest, and that is not what we want. We want the opposition to do their job, and that is why we are saying as government, they be given a good office to be able to execute their mandate as an opposition, to be able to. Number three, let me tell you, Victor.
Could this be the reason why that handshake is not needed, so that opposition is cornered put in some corner where there is no handshake? Yes, if this is what you want, then you have an office, no handshake.
Then why do we go for elections? Why do we have elections? If the other person who has not won elections, all they want to do is to do an handshake and then sit in the same government and not really focus on their mandate, because the mandate of the opposition should be to be able to look at what the government is not doing, what is not doing right, and then to be able to compliment and say, this one you're not doing right, you should be able to do it like this. Number two, let me add to this. Focusing on the issue of unga, what Zimio should be able to do, should be able to bring a well-written draft of a good strategy on that. This is where we are as a country. This is a cost of item commodity A that is required as a raw material for this production. So if this one is done like this, if we increase, for example, we give farmers, we subsidize the cost of the seedling, then we will have more production as far as the cost of, for example, the maize. If I would use that example, then we'll be able to have much more production of it, the cost of the energy. But that is what they should bring on table. But the issues that we've had, you've asked me what we discussed in the PG, the issues that are really upfront are not unga issues, are not strategies on how we are going to reduce this cost of living from the opposition. They are bringing their own personal issues, and that is where we have the issue.
I'll come back to you later. There's something that Nimrod Mbai, who is Kitui East, said yesterday during that function. I'll ask you. But when you look at the whole of this picture, Christine, my concern is the voice of common mwananchi. I mean, politicians have completely taken over. The president has given his people. Opposition leader Raila Odinga has also given his people. My question is, do you really have a space for the professionals? We have got the civil society, they have got memoranda, we have got youth leaders across the country, they have got the memoranda. If there is that issue of representation, are we getting that balance correctly? Yes, she's spoken, we have got youthful legislators in that committee, but a quote-unquote an outsider sitting there is my biggest concern.
Right.
You're a youth leader.
At the heart of bipartisan talk is compromise. So you can't be coming to the table and forcing the other party to take your stand. If you claim to truly represent people on the ground, then we as citizens would have felt like, you know what, we don't need to be in that table because we know they are representing, the seven are representing our issues. But we are in a country where politics is seen as leadership, and the two are totally different. If we had leaders, we wouldn't be asking for representation of the outsider who is not a legislator, because we'd have trust in the people who are representing us. But this is a case where we don't have trust in the people who are representing us in these dialogues, because they have shown to serve their interest more than our interest. And so when it comes to representation, again, we want our voices heard. And mature democracies, we've seen Australia, we've seen the UK, we've seen America, people trust in their leaders, and then they are okay with the agreements that come out of such talks. But in a situation here in Kenya, it's so hard to have that trust. So it's more of a trust issue, and that is why we are saying it cannot only be the legislators having this conversation, because this transcends the legislators. This is a national dialogue. It's not just about the two conflicting parties. There are also other parties that are being seen as problematic in this particular issue. And again, in our development agenda, what are we then saying to the people who then come after?
Yeah.
Because that's what I, as a young person, is interested in. That is what businessmen are interested in. That is what women are interested in. Not a boardroom where people will shake hands, and then after you leave that boardroom, no one cares. And then you come out to the ground and say, oh, this is it. And one of the challenges also of bipartisan talks is that the public does not have room to scrutinize the agreement.
Yeah.
So this is our chance now to say, before you start this dialogue, include our voices. So it's a question of the politics and the leadership that we are lacking in this governance platform that we have here in Kenya.
Let's take a break. But before that, Alex, do you think that both sides would give something like a document? The way you had the BBI document, it's spread all over, it's done in a Kenya Gazette, for example, you know, they spell out whatever they want. Azimio had their 8-point agenda to the table. Then the government side will also have their respondents on that side and whatever their concerns are. Maybe for just public participation before they get to the real talks.
I think that will happen, if you ask me.
Before that, let's take a break. Let's take a break and we come back. We are talking about matters Wanjiku. Where is Wanjiku's voice in all of this? And finally, are we normalizing handshake? More on that when we come back shortly.
Every Monday evening, we take you back where the action happened live. We'll let you know what you missed, even if you were present.
And our goal is to continue supporting our own.
From the latest celebrity buzz,
fashion,
music,
and all manner of youth talents,
the Grapevine cameras rove all week to bring you the latest in the enormous entertainment scene.
Watch Grapevine every Monday at 10 p.m. and the rerun on Tuesday at 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1, baby.
Engage us on Facebook and Twitter, #Grapevine on KBC. Let us know what is happening in your area code, because you know what they say, if you did not see it on Grapevine,
then it most probably never happened. Bah!
Ain't nobody gotta tell you what you gotta do.
We nini mbaya na wewe? Umefanya nini wewe sasa? Angalia kile umefanya. Wewe leta pesa.
Kuna nini? Oh, so alikuwa tu mwenda wazimu anatembea looking around for free labor.
Hapa hizo na lori. Repeat. Hapa hizo na lori. Bia wewe.
Chini, piga magoti. Panta, lori. Chaki.
Ngoja exactly 5 minutes. Kama sitakuwa in exactly 5 minutes enda. That's the maximum time they're going to go serious. Go serious.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the Hustler Fund?
When your children sleep hungry, when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table.
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
All right, welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Alex Manyasi, I asked you a question. Please go ahead.
I'm not sure I remember the question. Yeah, but if you think about the conversations around the handshake and why things are where they are, first of all, the conversations between the two leaders. And first of all, I think let me start from by disappointing a lot of Kenyans who think that the cost of living is going to go down soon. Even if we had a handshake today, the economy will not improve as much as people think. It might even get worse.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
saying
whole
that,
set of procedure.
Yes, I'm saying that because also the possibility of checking government will end, just like what happened between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. So checking government ended, voice of reason ended, being a watchman of the people from the other side also ended. And so the economic downturn currently, in fact, I get surprised that Kenya, we have tried and we have done very well in terms of managing the economy, especially the financial sector. We've done very well. I'm saying that because if you look at the Kenya shilling to the dollar, we're still at, I think, 130 or thereabout, depending on whether you're selling or buying. Other countries, and I've given many examples, Nigeria even attempted to change their currency, other reasons notwithstanding. Look at, I've given Nigeria as a huge economy. Their exchange to their local currency, I think right now is 650 to the dollar. Malawi, which is a poor country, which is on the other extreme, is at 1,200 to the local kwacha. And so if you think about the Kenyan context, we've done very well in terms of managing our cash flows. However, there are certain things that are then going on in the country which are to do with debt. And I want to say that, for example, if we defaulted on debt, the Kenyan economy will do worse than it is today. Because first of all, we will not be able to borrow easily. And if we borrow, we will borrow very expensively because we'll be considered a very risky borrower if we defaulted. And therefore, repayment of debt is going to be priority in the government of the day unless they want to change that, and that will have serious implications. And so that's why I'm saying Kenyans should not expect quick fixes to the economy going forward because of our internal problems, but also because of the global challenges. However, the only advice I can give, I know we are just beginning, but I'm speaking like I'm ending. The only advice I can give to Kenyans is if you have a farm somewhere, please make good use of it and have some production out of it. If you have some savings somewhere, make sure that you take care of it. If you have some resources in terms of other properties, please make sure that you take care of it. Live knowing that tomorrow is extremely uncertain in terms of how our economy is going to look like. It's not a Kenyan issue. This is just thinking about how overall things are looking at. However, coming back home, the more we have conflict, first of all, I believe that anything that goes to the streets and have demonstrations is bad for us. I think that's where it should start. We should not allow demonstrations to happen because we should not, because of the reasons I've given, we should not diminish our capacity to even collect extra tax. Because the more we do that, the more we'll have incapacity to collect more tax, the more we'll have incapacity to pay debt. And if that happens, then we will land our country into even deeper problems. Kenyans, you don't want to regret by making those mistakes. You cannot go to the streets at this point in time. You cannot have conflict. You cannot kill the small businesses that you have. If you do that, out there is not good. That's what I'm saying. So we need to think candidly about the conversations that we have. As we have them, we have to put our country first, including the conversations that are happening between the 7-7 conversation. Yeah.
Mheshimiwa, do we have a hope as a nation? At the end of the day, we have got elected leaders, we'll have elections in 2027 and even in the future. But how can we do it differently as a nation so that at the end of the day, an election is over the way you've said, mature democracies, people will vote. Some countries even vote online. You vote, log in, vote, go to work. You only get to know the president after a day or two and life goes on. How can we make the whole of this election to be so different that at the end of the day, Kenyans are so happy and so eager to vote and participate in that process without getting worried of, oh, we have another handshake, oh, we have another mandamano, oh, we have to form another commission to do ABCD?
Let me put it this way. We have to do things differently in order to get different results. If we keep on doing things the same way, then we get the same results. So one, we need to avoid and stop encouraging matters handshake so as not to go back and have the same results that we got during that particular regime of handshake, and not have handshake in such a way that now we focus on the Kenya Kwanza manifesto that the president has, and he's working with all leaders. And I say all leaders. He categorically has spoken and said it doesn't matter which political affiliation you're coming from or which region. This is Kenya, this is our country, we are one country, we are one nation. And let me appreciate one thing with Kenyans, and that's what makes me proud of being a Kenyan. Even when we sometimes travel out there, is that when Kenyans are saying they're seen as very hardworking people, very, very smart people, very people who want to achieve results. And one thing I love also is that we normally move on very fast away from things because we are very focused in getting good and better results. So in short, what Kenyans need in this particular period of us as Kenya Kwanza government is ensuring that the cost of living goes down. The infrastructures are improved, the agriculture, there's food security through the agricultural strategies and processes that are in place. We are coming also from a 2-year COVID period that really put our small businesses, as Alex has said earlier, down at a situation where even the big businesses were, actually everybody was affected. Employment issues, people were actually laid off because of this COVID. So we are coming from a COVID period, then we undertook elections. So Kenyans do not really want to go back to where things have been for the last 2 years. And also back to the education system whereby we had four terms for the high school, for the primary, and parents really had to squeeze in their pockets to ensure that they are able to take care of their kids in a education system. So things have been tough. So Kenyans what need right now is an environment that is peaceful, that is conducive for them to be able both to work and be able to do their businesses depending on the level of business, be it Mama Mboga down there, be it the big manufacturing firms, because they also have the laborers that are in place. And when we have an environment that is not peaceful, then it affects everybody down the line. So where we are, I can promise you, Victor, that it's going to be great if we ensure that whatever matters that we bring on table are not just personal, but matters for the common mwananchi. Because if mwananchi is at least on a 70%, they're at least okay in terms of their issues have actually been addressed, we are going to have a very beautiful nation, a very hardworking nation, a deliverable nation, and also a government that is happy to serve its people, not whereby we come on the floor and it is anger, it's agitation. That is then what our people will pick and be able to bring it in different forms, in going and thinking that looting is the way to go. Remove, expressing your anger in the wrong way. And also I urge my colleague and leaders, let us embrace communication. It costs you nothing to be able to discuss that matter. This is maybe not the right way, and everybody is entitled to their own opinion. But let the opinions, at the end of the day, narrow down to ensuring that whatever we are discussing is for that mwananchi, but not for us. And that is why I said earlier that the issues that have been brought on table were issues that when you look at them, you feel sad, because also we want to embrace and pick some points from the strategies of how the cost of living will go down, and now we take our pens and now do the math and calculate and see, okay, if we take this route, is this formula going to work, or this is a formula going to work, but not going to discuss on how these people are supposed to be given back their mandate and go back to office. Like, seriously, how will that help you put food on table?
That's why we call it's taking a political direction. But Christine, at the end of the day, the way she said, we cannot do the same thing and expect a different result.
True.
But change is inevitable. We have to embrace change at the same time. Tomorrow, you'll be here somewhere else. But at the end of the day, change must be expected. Absolutely. How can we as a nation, and say, you know what, wananchi, this is it. President William Ruto, to be completely intentional about making the electoral reforms, having a serious kind of a handshake, not a handshake that people are calling of, we are shapewa yake. We avoid that kind of rhetoric. But a handshake that is going to clean and bring some political hygiene in our system, that after 2027, Manyasi will go to the ballot and says, I've done my bit, so who is the next president? I'm off to build my nation. How do we make this change as a nation right now? Even with the committee now being formed,
right?
How do they make that change?
I'd go back to what Mheshimiwa said. Kenyans are now focused on politics because we cannot afford not to participate in politics because our basics have not been met. It's so sad that right now our hospitals do not have medicine. It's a raining season. Some people down in the areas where are not well ventilated are really struggling to even have a warm place to cover themselves, let alone stop thinking about food. They don't know if their houses are going to be carried tomorrow. They are not sure of where to go should they have malaria because our hospitals now do not have medication, right? So those basics are the reasons why a lot of people cannot afford not to be part and parcel of the conversation that is going around. If you compare that to other nations, the basics have already been met. And so people are trading well, the transport systems are working, they have their social protection in place. In Kenya, right now, you're even scared. Every time you see your mother calling, you are scared to pick that call because you know that is a 1,000 shilling that is going to go. One, because there's no food at home. Secondly, somebody is sick and they need to be taken to hospital. Thirdly, there's an issue that has just happened. It's a raining season. So these are the issues that a lot of us want addressed. And so when you're talking about the change, we should now be talking about some other issues as opposed to still asking for the basics. And so the change that we yearn for is that tomorrow when we are talking about having a bipartisan parliamentary approach, is we are talking from a transformative perspective.
Yes.
If we were to go down the line and really ask what are the gains we got from the last handshake, I'm sure a lot of us will be disappointed that it was public relation most of the time, and we saw some people happy. But then, coming down now, we see the same characters on the table still fighting for the same issue. Victor, I'll tell you this. If you look at the previous 7, we had, let's say, somebody like Raila and Orengo and Ruto on the same side. Martha Karua was on the other side, because Martha Karua was now under the late Moi Kibaki. But now we see that the tables have turned, and the people who are on the same side last time are now on the separate side. What does that tell us? Even while they are there, when we started that conversation back then, they did not amicably build a relation that was transformative to the agenda of the people.
And that is why we are here with the handshake.
And that is why we're here
15 years
again,
down the line.
15 years down the line.
Okay.
So then, are we saying the same thing will happen 15 years down the line? Same people asking for the same thing? We are tired and we are frustrated as Kenyans. And that is why we are apathetic to this whole handshake thing, because we've learned from experience that it did not serve our interest as a people. Because if it did, surely we wouldn't be here. Now, it's a rainy season, we don't have medication, it's a rainy season, we do not know what is going to happen because our farms have no fertilizers. The fertilizers are very expensive right now. So a common person who is struggling to get food, where are they going to get money to get that fertilizer?
Manyasi, you know,
the other issue,
yes,
Victor, would be, we did a research and we realized that in every $1 invested in young people's programming, we get a return on investment of $5 to $10. So if that is something we can go by as Kenyans, that is to say that if you truly invest in people, you actually get the returns as a country.
Yeah.
But if we go with the report that Ndee did on the budgeted corruption, you realize that we are not serving the interest of the people, and that is where all these problems are emanating from. And these are documented issues. I'm not saying this just because of what is happening now. These are documented issues. And so for $1 invested in young people programming, we get $5 to $10. Maybe we need to now start even giving this power to these young people who seem to be more progressive than the old folks who are not taking this country where it's supposed to go.
15 years ago, there was the late Kofi Annan kind of talks, and we had this back and forth, hotel meetings, boardroom meetings, this one representing the other side, and we're here 15 years later. Manyasi, you are very much aware of some of the talks, some of the intrigues, the back and forth, the bottlenecks that they had late that then, but she said, now tables have completely shifted. And now the people who are sitting on this end are now on this end. They know one another pretty well. And the contents of these discussions. But my biggest concern is, where will we be 15 years later? And how can we fix this once and for all, now that they have got the energy, the power, and time, and opportunity?
I think, first of all, I will say that I may not be in a position to make direct comparison between the talks, Kofi Annan talks then and now. Why? Because we are in a new dispensation in terms of constitutionalism. And so a lot of things have changed, by the way. So we need also to appreciate that our electoral reforms changed to the better. I'm saying to the better because now someone cannot be sworn in at night, unlike before. Even if you won the election today, like I said initially, you have to wait for certain procedures to be completed. And so I could say we are in a better place than before in terms of the way we do our governance. remember, we have now institutions. Whether they're working or not, that's a different conversation. But we have institutions. We have the three arms of government, and we have the fourth, which we call the fourth, which is the constitutional commissions, which are supposed to be technically putting safeguards to the interest of Kenyans when the three arms get out of hand, if they do. And so, in terms of shifting of the way our governance system is run, we have moved quite a bit. I'm saying all these things because sometimes as Kenyans we beat ourselves so much such that someone can think there's nothing that has happened in this country for the last 50 years. It's not true. We've made quite some progress. And so, away from the current, away from that, then how do we make sure that the conversations that we have are progressive in the sense that they keep improving what we have to make them even better?
Yes.
So we need to then not personalize what we will take the country forward. Because if the interest is a Raila Odinga interest, then definitely this country is not moving any closer to where we want to be. Because you can't change systems for purposes of the ideals of one person or the interest of a person. And I don't want to go into that, but there's evidence that shows that, and the reason why Musalia Mudavadi, for example, and Moses Wetangula on this other side is because of exactly what I'm saying. Sometimes the interest in conversations around handshakes are not necessarily national. And that's a problem. That's a problem because then you make it look like the reason why this is not working is because of X, when it's actually Y.
Yeah.
And that's why I have said many times that even if a referendum was called today, the real things that are affecting Kenyans might not be on the table.
True.
That's the disaster of the conversations as they are, such that then we end up with conversations that have nothing to do with the common person. For me, I would be looking at, for example, the subsidies on fertilizers that was being given by government. That was a very good move within a very short period of time after being elected in office. For me, I will be thinking about how do we make sure that the logistics of the fertilizer gets to the common person at the price that the government wants that person to get, because that's where the disconnect is. For example, where I come from, if I come from Kimilili, for instance, that's my constituency, the fertilizer was in Mount Elgon. If you're going to pick one fertilizer bag, I think it was 2,500. If you think about the logistics of going to pick that bag, sometimes it doesn't make sense to even go and pick it in the first place. So in the next planting cycle, how do we make sure that that fertilizer, the logistics of it, is taken care of in such a way that, and this is for technocrats, I believe there are people in government who are thinking, to make sure that you ensure that instead of putting in cereal boards, that you have, for example, businessmen picking it, and you agree on the margin that they're going to put for the markup.
Distribution.
Yes, for the distribution purposes, so that it's not entirely government that is going to do that. I think for me, that is the conversation we need to have. And like I said initially, one of the things that we need to make sure that, can we facilitate our people to move from point A to B? That is the conversation we need to be having. So that then we talk about things that affect the common person. If it's about that the bursaries are going to the right people, how do we ensure that the fertilizer is reaching the common person at the price we intend them to get? So that then, because we know, for example, that our farmers in Kenya today, they use less than a third of the fertilizer they need to be using. So the production we're having is less than a third of what we should be producing as a country in terms of food. That is documented in a lot of research. So we must then be honest with ourselves and say, these are the conversations that concern the common person. But as we're having it today, the conversations have nothing to do with the common person.
Okay, now that I'm so sure Mheshimiwa doesn't want to hear that. I'm going to treat that as your closing remarks. Mheshimiwa, please wind up for us. I'm told that we are running out of time, but is there hope for this country as you answer?
yes, there is a positive hope. And yes, I want to agree to the fact that apparently we still have the same political leaders who've been there for quite a long period of time. And I want to agree with the Christian that it is the high time that also the youth be given an opportunity to also have space in politics. But just to mention a few of the things is that the healthcare cost has been is high, and the government is working to ensure that through the NHIF that Kenyans are going to have NHIF. Either you're working or you're not working, but it's going to be available in such a way that at least on health issues they can be able to be manageable. We also have the issue that has been there for pensions, NSSF, whereby the savings that have been there have been very, very minimal. So by the time the people are retiring at their retirement of age, by the time they are going home, whatever they are being given, someone who was earning, for example, X amount of maybe 50,000 or something like that, but what they now start receiving after they've retired is something like 10,000, and now it becomes a challenge because they're not able to manage themselves. But as we speak, even through the Hustler Fund, there's that room for increasing savings and having a culture of savings, so that in future people can be able to also continue running. It doesn't become a challenge when Christian says, when you see your mother calling, you know that it's something that needs to be sorted. But if our people would be encouraged to have more savings also through NSSF, then it's a positive long-term way. The issues that we've talked about are long-term issues. They may not be just tomorrow that this is the cost of unga is just going to go down. But yes, I agree that let Kenyans use what they have, plow the land, the small land that is available. Whatever work that you are doing, be it Juakali, be it Mama Mboga, try and ensure that you save from what you are doing, so that you give also the government time. By the time things are going to be better, also what you have within your mandate, you've been able to utilize it well. Let us also give the government time to build on the systems that are there, to better them, to ensure that, yes, as you say, in terms of even voting, digital systems, whereby you can be able to use your mobile phone, be able to transact, so that we change. So in future, it's going to be a positive change, but it requires time. Let us also give the 14 bipartisan committee, 7 pro both sides, time to be able to sit on table, to be able to come up with the resolutions on what they've been able to discuss.
Absolutely.
There should be also emphasis on civic education. Be able to help our Kenyans and Wanjiku understand what good governance is. Sometimes they do not understand. Even when Alex says about the bursary issues, at times they don't understand, where do I start? How do I get it? It's entitled to me as a Kenyan. Which are the processes? How do I benefit from this from the government? And we really encourage also through the county government to ensure that even from the national level, more civic education to our people. And with that, knowledge is power. They'll be better guided, and we'll be able to know also how to do the check and balance on the things that the government is supposed to offer to them.
Thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are running out of time, but director says that we have 1 minute, one more. Our neighbor's house is on fire. Juba is not at peace right now. The president talked about it yesterday. They need to sit down. South Sudan, Juba, we've had them in Kenya. The late President Mwai Kibaki brokered that deal. In fact, their flag resembles that of Kenya. And now whatever is happening, CS, Alfred Mutua said that a couple of Kenyans, 3,000 of them are stuck in Juba. They gave that travel advisory from peace point of view. What do Kenya need to do, Kenya in specific, to bring sanity in that country? Perhaps in just 1 minute.
Well, we've definitely been a force to reckon with when it comes to peace treaties. And as Kenyans, we are known to be peaceful. And so this is also an opportunity for us to reach out to our neighbors, because if our neighbors are not safe, we are not safe. And owing to the relation that we've had with South Sudan, then it calls really for our leaders to amicably come together and then really see that these issues end, because it's the same challenges that we are facing in Kenya. It's just that we are civilized enough not to start a war, but really addressing those issues amicably and making sure that it's the common person's agenda being served and not people's interests.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we need some sanity in South Sudan because Kenya exports. We have got trucks passing through Uhuru Highway going to Juba, South Sudan. You'd imagine the economic implication that Kenya suffers, even the two countries.
Yes.
Alex?
Yes, there is a lot because there's a lot of bases between Kenya and Southern Sudan. But there are several things that we need also to learn from that experience. Is that war does not help anyone. Conflict does not help anyone. And once a country is in conflict, there are certain things that don't happen. People don't go to school. And then once you have a generation that is not going to school, the possibility of them taking up arms becomes very high. And so those are lessons as we intervene in Southern Sudan. We also look inward and know that we need to maintain what we have. We need to maintain sobriety within our thinking so that we don't end up in the same place. However, I think the international community should be quick in coming up with interventions at that level, because the escalation in Southern Sudan, remember, if they are at war, all of us have a responsibility in terms of the economic input into that process. So we shouldn't allow that to go on.
Absolutely. Mheshimiwa, 20 seconds, kindly. Told that we are now tutafukuzwa hapo.
Yes. But today, you've not really touched on what the Azimio were saying in Kamukunji yesterday.
I decided to avoid that intentionally.
Because yes, a few of them were trying to sound like even us we will start what South Sudan is doing, and those are not sentiments to be able to echo in such a beautiful country. We are proud of our country. We are sad with what is happening back there in South Sudan. It's not something that we would want to see actually in our country, and that is why we still encourage more discussions, more talk, so that we don't get to a level that is that. I'm happy that the president even mentioned yesterday they had a meeting in State House in the evening discussing on this issue so as to see how to evacuate our Kenyans in case this thing is still escalating. The CS Mutua talked about having already talked with the Kenya Airways so that in case of that quick response that will be needed, then our Kenyans will be able to come back home. Yeah.
All right. I think that's a perfect way to stop at the end of the day, because they say that when your neighbor's house is on fire, please run with a bucket of water and find out what's happening. All right. So that's where we end it. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa Mutinda Tabitha, who is with us today. Alex Manyasi, political analyst, a very brilliant mind as well as daughter of the land. That's how she calls herself, Christine Odena. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And you as a viewer, you know what? We are here because of you. Thank you so much for watching. We are taking a break, but GMK continues. Ramaguko is up next. Good morning.
You and I will never see each other again. But please don't tell me to go to another man and get away from me. You don't want me to hate you?
Go and tell your mother to send me right away all her overdue bills and all of her promissory notes. I'll be sure to take care of them. I appreciate all of them, but I can forget about all of that if you would simply allow yourself to give us both another chance.
But what will you do with your life?
All I know is that one day I will settle the score with Olegario Montoya.
And Zenaida, tell her that she has to leave this house.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the hustler fund?
Will your children sleep hungry when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table?
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
Leta na badate. Geni yangu umenijesea.
Ukipata mkuu yako imekuwa ya kondo, usiniulize.
Nini mbaya na wewe? Unakutu tamara. Who you?
Hii inaitwa tester. Na test kama mimi niko na simu ama kuna.
Kuna mwangaza huku nje. Hata ni mchoro umechao kwa sababu tiri yako mfunguka. Mama bari nimechawa.
Si wewe ndio naye?
Ndio ni huyu.
Ngia bwana. Si mimi.
Wewe nini mbaya na wewe? Umefanya nini wewe sasa? Angalia kile umefanya. Wewe leta pesa.
Kuna nini? Oh, so alikuwa tu mwenda wazimu anatembea looking around for free labor.
I have eyes on a lorry. Repeat. I have eyes on a lorry. Be aware.
Chini, piga magoti. Panta, lorry, trucking.
Goja exactly 5 minutes. Kama sitakuwa in exactly 5 minutes enda. That's the maximum time they're going to go serious. Go serious.
All right, thank you so much for sticking with us. We continue with this conversation this fine Monday morning. My name is Ram Maguko. This is still Good Morning Kenya. Thank you for sticking with us. And of course, it's all about matters concerning technology. This is Technology Monday. And this morning, it's all about the changing trends and tides in education. How far are we when it comes to ensuring that we have new trends in the education system? One particular term I'd like you to note is international curriculum. I know you're used to, or you have been hearing the term competence-based curriculum. Now there's another, international curriculum. What is that all about? Also in this conversation, we shall tackle one interesting debate or conversation where we are introducing gaming in education. That's right, introducing gaming in education, how we can use gaming to ensure education is entertaining and at the same time understandable. How does it work using technology? This morning, ladies and gentlemen, I am with none other than Oscar Sitati, the director for Laser Learning Hub. Welcome to the program. Karibu sana.
Sir. Thank you, sir.
And first things first, Oscar, we're talking about international curriculum. Just by definition, from the layman's language, for somebody who's watching it today who doesn't understand this, what exactly are we looking into here?
Okay, thank you so much for having me. So in international curriculum, there are several international curricula that have that are being offered in Kenya, although basically they are based in either in the US or in the UK. Take for example the British national curriculum, where we have two separate curriculum. Both of them are being offered in Kenya. We have the Cambridge curriculum, which is more broader. Then we have the Edexcel curriculum. Both of them, they fall under British national curriculum.
And still, are they different?
Yes, they're different in very small ways. You see, the way we would say 844 and CBC, both of them are Kenyan curricula. There's something different here and there, but
the approach.
Yeah, little approach, but mostly both British curriculums, they are largely alike.
All right.
Then we have also American curricula. Actually, that's where we have quite a wide variety of curricula being offered in Kenya. Where you will find, for example, the ACE, the Accelerated Christian Education. Then we have classical curriculum, we have the Waldorf, we have quite a wide variety of American curriculum that one can choose from. So basically, for example, the British is normally called IGCSE. This is international, as the international certificate. When it is being offered in UK, it is just called GCSE because it is offered in the UK. Now, when it comes to this side, they call it international. So you can still be able to get your qualification in that curriculum, then proceed with your academics anywhere in the world where it is offered. Right here in Kenya, we have quite a number of universities that with your IGCSE certificate, you just get in and do your course like any other regular, somebody with a KCSE certificate. Yes.
And we are seeing that parents are now looking into this type of curriculum so that their children have a global perspective in terms of the education system. And do you feel like it's advantageous, this particular curriculum, compared to CBC? Should it even be compared to the CBC?
I would say, one, the CBC to a large extent is taking from the British curriculum. Take, for example, in CBC, our primary is running similarly from grade 1 to grade 6, then 7, 8, 9 as lower secondary, junior secondary, and then we go on just like the Cambridge curriculum. Now, in the Cambridge curriculum, usually at year 6, which is like grade 6 equivalent, they do an exam that is called a checkpoint exam. That checkpoint exam is now what they use to get into grade 7, 8, 9, which is lower secondary. Similarly, as we call it, junior secondary in CBC. Similarly, you can see that they just picked the same concept of, it's not a must for you to sit that exam. It's not a qualification like it used to be in 844. You would score a certain number of marks and they will decide which high school you're going to. So CBC has come and has removed that. It's an assessment. It's called an assessment. It's no longer an exam.
It's no longer an exam. But now the international curriculum,
yes, now it's the same again. Also, when they do a checkpoint exam at year 6, it is not a qualification. They just do it and then they continue to year 7, 8, 9. Talking of the advantages as you had asked, it's true as you state. First of all, a student becomes a global citizen, such a way that a global student, such that I can be able to do my studies in Kenya, go and continue with it in South Africa, go and continue with it in the UK or in the US. So the qualification, the certificates I have are accepted world over. As one advantage of me doing an international curriculum. But also fundamentally, what's different between the international curriculum and the Kenyan curriculum is how the learning is done. You will notice that a student is trained how to think, which is what 844 missed, of course. We were supposed to know which year, for example, Kenya got independence, or I'm supposed to know parts of a leaf and then just go and write them. But in this other side, you are taught how to be able to reason. Like in Cambridge Maths, we have a whole paper for reasoning. It's a whole paper 2 is purely reasoning.
So that's mathematics.
That's mathematics. Reasoning. So can I be able to understand? Can I be able to understand that if this is the question, I should do some reasoning before I come to give the answer. We also have another paper that is called mental maths. Now, mental maths is, this student is supposed to do all the computations mentally, then just write the answer. You see, again, that is something which we miss.
Hold on. No calculator, no pen, no paper.
No calculator, no pen. Oh, no, there's a pen and paper for you to write your answer. But you see, you're supposed to do your work mentally. And we even have another one that is an oral paper where you ask the question and you're supposed to answer. Again, now no pen, no paper, that is just an oral. So do your calculations or get your answers mentally, and this trains the child to be able to exercise using the brain more. You know, the brain is a muscle. They say the same way you go to the gym and exercise your muscle, in the same way you should also exercise your mind.
In class.
Your creative thinking, your critical thinking, all those things.
Now, I'm looking at one interesting trend that is taking shape, especially in the country. Homeschooling.
True.
I'm seeing many parents are resorting to this as opposed to, the conventional schooling system. Is this advantageous, and does it play a role in ensuring the growth and development of a child?
So it's true, as you say, homeschooling is catching up fast.
Exactly.
You see, all the time we were in school, when we were growing up, we knew, you are born to go to school. You're not supposed to be. You cannot stay at home and learn. Which Kenyan parent will let you do that?
You can, in fact, even if you have a dream,
just forget about it.
School first.
Wake up in the morning, go to school very early in the morning. Whether it's raining or not, you have to get to school.
Yeah.
You see, right now, then parents realized, it's not a must that we go to a real school. I can get my 2-3 children, put them together, then bring in a teacher. Also, there is also the fact that now that if we are staying next to each other, we can be able to put our students together, like we are neighbors, 2-3 of us. We make a pod. Then now the teacher comes and teaches the child from there. There are very many advantages of that. Of course, definitely there are downsides too. But some of the advantages of preferring to homeschool your child would be, number one, they get individualized attention. As opposed to just sitting in a class. The teacher comes and teaches. You see, I am a teacher. I've taught for 14 years. Most of this time I was teaching in a school. So when I enter into a class, definitely I have planned what I'm going to teach on that day. I have a lesson plan. So I just teach everybody what I have planned.
So there is no specificity for any particular child.
To say that this child doesn't understand this area, let me teach that, there is no opening for that. But now in homeschooling, I will know this student has a problem here.
Exactly.
This student needs this attention. Then I can zero in and even spend more time in that area until I make sure that they have got it.
But still the syllabus will be covered.
The syllabus will be covered, actually. Now, you see, when you're doing individualized learning, you tend to cover more than when you're doing classroom.
Yeah.
Look at the schooling system, the conventional schooling system as it is. You realize that a lot of time is wasted. We are going on assembly. We are going for meals where we queue. So you see, a large number of quite a lot of time is wasted doing normal things or day-to-day things. But now in homeschooling, it's just me and the student. All the time that we have is utilized in learning.
Exactly.
So we cover more in half a day, actually. In half a day, you've covered more than they have covered in school.
But still, sorry to cut you short, even though you're covering this, doesn't that affect this child? Because the child is no longer interacting with fellow students. He's no longer playing around with the fellow kids. He's always in the house. Doesn't that interfere with his social adaptation, with his social environment?
So, just as I had mentioned, you see, everything in this world has the upside and the downside.
Okay.
So it's more of actually weighing what's more, the advantages, the pros or the cons.
Which one is heavier than the other?
Yeah, which is heavier than the other.
Put it on a scale.
What wins? So, as you put it rightly, there's a social aspect that will definitely take a beating, if not addressed, if not mitigated. Now, usually, when you're doing homeschooling, you're kind of like having, like you're doing an experiment on a small space. So we can be able to regulate factors. Take, for example, socialization, or social interactions, as you put it. A parent would do this. There's a huge community of parents who are homeschooling right now. But what people may not know is that the flame of homeschooling has been catching. And right now, there are several WhatsApp groups, big WhatsApp groups of many parents who are homeschooling their students.
And in fact, parents and teachers.
Yes, true. Parents and teachers, huge community. So on this community, we usually come together and say, we are doing sports on Friday.
Okay.
Then they all come. If you go on Friday when homeschoolers are meeting somewhere for sports, you'll be surprised. All these people, there are so many of them. Then they will organize for trips. We just say, we are going to National Museum. Then people sign up. In no time, we have like 50 kids showing up for the trip. Educational trips. We do other activities like gymnastics, they will do skating, they will do coding classes. So that's where they get to meet with the other students, interact with the other students, and have kind of like a community or social events.
So it depends on the structure that a parent has chosen to use for home-based learning.
True. If you choose to go home-based learning, then you have to be deliberate to cover the shortfalls. Which one of them, as you've said, is the socialization aspect. You must be able now to say, for me to get my child to be to interact socially with the others, then I have to include one other thing. Same as another important thing is healthy competition. Now, you know that, when we were in school, you are ranked, you're going to be ranked. You're either going to be position 10 or 100 or whatever, so you know where you fall. Now, in this curriculum where we don't give positions, how do they handle competition? How do they handle losing?
Is that now the international curriculum or home-based learning?
You see, in home-based learning, we basically just teach one of the curriculum. Even if you want to do CBC and do it home-based, you'll do CBC.
Whichever curriculum?
Yes, whichever curriculum. So even this international curriculum, we do it in home-based learning. So we can just say home-based learning is a way of learning, but the curricula just stay the same. They stay the same. So, and now you see in CBC, we are not putting positions. We're not giving students positions.
Yes.
Same as in all the international curriculum. It's not so much about who was first, who was second, who was 10th. So then how do you get to train your child to learn how to lose, to handle healthy competition? Because, right now, there's depression is quite a thing right now. And what used to be stress factors during our time, or what used not to be stress factors during our time, are now stress factors. Like somebody was in a competition and they were beaten. They become depressed. They become seriously stressed. They come home and tell you, Mom, I was stressed. Why? Because we did an exam and so defeated me.
I got a wrong on a particular question.
Yes, imagine. And you see this thing about, let me finish this point first. So you see, then if you're doing homeschooling, you have to be deliberate on teaching now your child how to handle healthy competition. Realize that there's some things, somebody else will be better than you, and it is okay. There's something that you are better than them.
Exactly.
In this life, you're always good at one thing, and somebody else is good at the other. So, and now to the thing you just pointed out about getting wrong.
Yes.
It's also another thing which is big in international curriculum. That even when teachers are teaching, a good number of international curriculum, you are not, the students don't get a wrong mark, which is, somebody will discuss, somebody will say it's discouraging to see a wrong. The other one will say, they should get a wrong and know that they are wrong. My personal opinion,
yes,
I don't want to say this is right or this is wrong, but my personal opinion.
But what you believe?
What I believe is there are several right ways of doing things. But definitely there are also wrong ways of doing things.
And we should acknowledge both ways.
Yes.
Acknowledge the right and the wrong.
And just tell me, I know here you're wrong. This method you use is not the best. So this way I will know, if I use this method, I'm likely to get wrong results.
So putting an X on a particular question,
I would
should not
say
be a bad thing.
Yeah, it should be a bad thing. Just be a stress factor.
Just like putting a tick is a good...
The same way I enjoy the feeling of a tick, I should also just realize, hey, I'm wrong, here I'm wrong. So I start avoiding these wrongs and I start getting the ticks. You see? So I would say also it should not make them not to shy away from being wrong. You see, in this life, but they say that one of the greater mistakes would be trying not to make any. Trying not to make any mistake can actually be a mistake. Try, even if you get a mistake, you know I was wrong, so I try better. Yes,
I love what you say. In the same way you enjoy the tick, also enjoy the X.
Yes.
I love that. But now, Sitati, let's look at one interesting area here, because we're talking about ensuring that our children get the best form of education. And I love that you mentioned that social interaction is important, even for kids that are taking homeschooling. But there is something that is quite interesting, that caught my attention. When parents hear that a child is on their computer playing a game, they'll be like, have you read the whole day? Have you taken time to study? You are on your gaming console. Have you taken time to study first? Study, then play the game. But here I'm looking at Mr. Sitati sitting with me today, and you're telling me you can use gaming as a form of education? How does that work?
You see, it's about now changing the scope of how learning used to happen to how can we harness a child's learning. I normally call it their mental genius. Getting a child to learn at their best at what they like. Now gaming comes in to just change the learning to be fun. So I do it because I actually want to do it. I'm not learning because, hey, it's class time, hey, open your books. You know how...
That is a must.
The books are sometimes get so boring. Having to open the books and have to flip the pages. Okay, it depends on the child's different learning style. Some may read that the written copies, but there are students who would love the gaming. So I can be able to go onto an app and do math and get so good at my multiplication. All the time, I'm actually on my gadget. You see, for instance, and this is what we do basically at Laser Learning Hub. We try to get a child to be able to enjoy the learning process, such that this child tomorrow really wants to come and continue learning. They look forward to learning.
Now, does this game incorporate every subject so that we don't end up seeing a child always on their on their gaming system? I don't know. Does it have incorporations of every topic, every subject of every semester or term?
So there are different games. Actually, you would find that one game would be so nice for science, the other one would be so nice for math, the other one would be so nice for English. So different games teach different things. Take, for instance, we have Maths Frame. Maths Frame, you will get all the topics for all the levels that you need to teach your child in. So I'll specifically go there. Let's say I'm learning Roman numbers, I'm learning multiplication, I'm learning decimals. Then I just type in Maths Frame, then I go to decimals, then I choose one of the games that is there, then I can be able now to keep practicing with it. You see, take for example a game called Arithmetic Archery, which is on Maths Frame. It shoots a question, you kick the answer. You key in the answer. If you key in the correct answer, then at the end of it, you're going to do archery, that's shooting. So if you key in correct answers, then it will be moving slowly. So it is very easy for you to hit the bullseye.
So I'm trying to picture it. Huh?
Yes.
So let's go back to that game. So it's archery.
Yes, basically archery.
Archery.
Yes.
So there is a bullseye somewhere.
Yes.
And on the gaming system, I have that bow and arrow.
Yes.
Okay.
But before you get to it, now they shoot questions in the topic which you chose.
But mathematical questions.
Mathematical questions. So for whatever topic you have chosen, it will now shoot a question. Let's say, for example, for the lower levels, let's say you're doing multiplication tables. What is 7 times 4?
Yes.
Now you're supposed to click the answer. So if I click a wrong answer, you see, there's usually the focal point that is moving. So I'm supposed to wait until it gets near the bullseye, then I click. So if I get my the answers wrong to my questions.
The
it
arrow
will be moving
which-
very fast. It will be moving very fast, so it's very hard for you to get a bullseye. You see.
So the more you display the right, or you key in the right answers, the slower the bullseye.
Exactly. The
goes,
slower
and the higher chances of shooting.
Chances of getting 100%.
But when you get the wrong answer, the bullseye starts moving around.
So fast. Exactly. So it becomes so hard for you to get it. So that is one. Let's come to, for example, hit the button. Hit the button is a game I really like for for children between the age of 6 and 12.
It's called Hit the Button.
Hit the button, yeah. And by the way, it's important for me to mention that they are free games that anyone can access. They are not even limited to any curriculum, international or Kenyan. You see, multiplication, you know how you did multiplication when you were in school? You had to master your times tables, otherwise you will be in trouble.
I did. In fact, I had in our book we had the multiplication table at the back page. It was primary mathematics or something.
Yes. Well, I don't know if you're allowed to cheat or you're allowed to check or not. But you see now, for us, the teacher would come and say, tomorrow we're doing table 5.
Yes.
So the next day he comes and he shoots any question. He asks you 5 and 6. If you don't know.
I also went through that. Yes.
If you don't know, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
So you see, now it becomes something that as a student wants to go away from. But give them hit the button. It's a free site. You can go to Google and type hit the button, then access it. Now it gives you times tables where now it shoots a question, you click an answer, shoots a question, you click an answer, and you're getting a score.
Wow.
So after 1 minute, it gives you a score. It tells you congratulations, brilliant work, all that kind of thing. That's what those words are what the students love.
And these are the changing trends in education.
Exactly.
Gaming.
So if I tell the student, if you score anything above 40, you get a reward.
Wow.
So the student will be trying to increase their speed so that they can be able to get the reward.
Now, because of time, let's now move quickly. How do you see us as a country moving forward with all these trends being put into consideration on the table? What's our future and the future of our education system?
So I would say we are working towards the right direction. CBC is redefined the 844 as it was. Definitely it has some fundamental flaws, of course, which we are still waiting for the task force to do to recommend the changes. If you asked me, I would say it is good, it's proper. It's bringing back the focus onto the skills, focus onto creative thinking. By the way, let me point out some few things that they are normally called core values in CBC.
Briefly.
One, they say critical thinking. It's an amazing thing. Creative thinking.
Yes.
Digital literacy. You needed to learn, when smartphones came, we needed to learn how to use them. But students now are doing even PowerPoint on their tablets. It's an advantage. Only that I would say they will just need to scale it down to reduce the amount of content that a child has to do. Doing so many subjects, all of them with huge syllabuses, is a bit too much. So if it can be scaled down to, in the British curriculum, the Cambridge curriculum has only 3 core subjects: maths, English, and science. These are the only ones that are tested at checkpoint year 6 and checkpoint year 9. But you see now CBC, we test all the subjects, which now becomes a bit heavy. So we're heading in the right direction. We just need to keep making improvements on our systems.
Yes. And still, I'm pushed or moving towards trying to understand if this thing is affordable to every Kenyan. Is it something that every Kenyan can access? All the changing trends in education, can they be accessible to someone who is in the rural areas of the country? Still a conversation you need to have for another day.
Okay.
But thank you so much, Mr. Sitati, for coming in today. I really appreciate your presence.
Thank you.
I love the work you're doing. As we wrap it up, you are the director of Laser Learning Hub.
True.
Is it an online platform?
No, Laser Learning Hub is a physical center where we are in Kilimani, along Demi Road. Here, we normally offer tuitions, we offer homeschooling.
All right.
We also offer music training because I'm a music trainer.
Thank you.
So we everyone is welcome.
Asante.
Thank
you do music?
Yes, I do music. I'm a music trainer for many years.
Do you play an instrument?
I play 5.
Thank you so much. And that is Oscar Sitati, the director of Laser Learning Hub. And it has been a pleasure being with you. And of course, I hope you've learned something concerning the changing trends in education. I sure have, because these are the education trends that will affect your children together with those that we expect to have in the future. And of course, it has been a pleasure being with you. It's a wrap on my end, but Good Morning Kenya still continues. Doreen Arange is coming up next with the Family Check. This is KBC Channel 1. Let's take a short break. We'll be back in a bit.
Every Monday evening, we take you back where the action happened live. We let you know what you missed, even if you were present.
And our goal is to continue supporting our own.
From the latest celebrity buzz,
fashion,
music,
and all manner of youth talents,
the Grapevine cameras rove all week to bring you the latest in the enormous entertainment scene.
Watch Grapevine every Monday at 10 p.m. and the rerun on Tuesday at 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1, baby.
Engage us on Facebook and Twitter, #Grapevine on KBC. Let us know what is happening in your area code, because you know what they say, if you did not see it on Grapevine,
then it most probably never happened.
Ain't nobody gotta tell you what you gotta do.
Welcome to Take on Tech. This is the show that keeps you updated on everything you need to know about technology.
First of all, the women that are already in tech should be empowered.
I've actually studied electrical and electronics engineering, telecommunications option. So basically I'm in the tech sector.
The government should empower the girl child in a way that they should venture so much into ICT.
There's never a dull moment with us. Tune in every Monday from 10:30 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
Born in 1914 in Dogoto, Kiambu, his parents were among the first Kenya Africans to become Christians, having been converted at Church of Scotland Mission, Kikuyu. Gishuru chose to follow his father's footsteps and trained as a teacher at Makerere, where he graduated in 1934 with a diploma in education. He returned to teach his alma mater, Alliance High School, before later on becoming the headmaster of Church of Scotland Mission School in Kikuyu. Some of the students he taught at Alliance included Jackson Angaine, Oginga Odinga, Charles Jonjo, Jeremiah Nyaga, and Ronald Ngala. By now, Gishuru had developed an interest in politics in 1944. He, Harry Thuku, Francis Hamese, Joseph Otiende, and W.W. Awori set up a new party, the Kenya Africa Study Union, KASU, whose name would later be changed to Kenya Africa Union, with Gichuru as the party president. In September 1946, Gichuru resigned as KAU president in favor of Jomo Kenyatta, who had returned to Kenya after living in England for a number of years. In 1951, Gichuru quit teaching and entered government service as chief of Dagoretti, but would not last long as chief. The position was short-lived. On October 20th, 1952, the colonial governor Sir Evelyn Baring declared a state of emergency throughout Kenya in an effort to contain the Mau Mau rebellion against British colonial rule. KAU was banned and Kenyatta and other freedom fighters were arrested, tried, convicted, jailed and later detained for a number of years. Gichuru and Otiende were some of the former KAU leaders whom the colonial government placed in movement restriction order. By the time the restriction order was rescinded in 1959, some of the measures his old party KAU had fought for had been achieved. They were now 14 elected African members of the Legislative Council, LegCo, and soon the colonial government would allow Africans to set up new political parties. Gichuru became interim president of one of the new parties, the Kenya African National Union, KANU, on the understanding that he would stand down for Kenyatta upon release from detention. Kenyatta was released in 1961 and took over as president of KANU. In the 1961 general election, Gichuru stood for the Limuru seat rather than his home constituency of Kikuyu. He was elected MP unopposed. He would later accompany Kenyatta as he led KANU delegates to the Second Constitution Conference at Lancaster House in London to work out the final touches to Kenya's progress to independence. In May 1963 general election, Gichuru was again elected unopposed for the Limuru parliamentary seat. Elsewhere, KANU had a resounding victory, winning 83 of the 124 seats in the House of Representatives. On June 1, 1963, when Kenyatta became the first Prime Minister of Kenya, he appointed Gichuru Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development. In 1964, Gichuru presented a bill for the House of Representatives to ratify the provision to establish the African Development Bank. Towards the end of Kenyatta's tenure, Gichuru was the Minister for Defense and retained the position when Moi took over as president. He developed health problems from the early 1970s and died in August 1982. Reporting for Prime Edition, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
Time for us to now navel gaze on family matters. Now, for the next 40 minutes, we'll look at shepherding teens into adulthood. What basically does this mean? What does it entail? This coming at a time whereby we've constantly been experiencing high and cases of teen pregnancies, so to speak. But what exactly does this mean when it comes to the family setup, and just how can parents navigate this? This is what you're set to converse on, and my guest is here, Faith Agneta, who is a motivational speaker and realtor, also the founder Look Beyond. Faith, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
And really, there's quite a lot that is there to be conversed when you look at teens getting into adulthood. I mean, over time we keep saying that this is that generation where a 10-year-old will tell you, I'm stressed, and you'd wonder, what are you stressed about?
Yeah.
What is bothering your life at 11?
Yeah.
And truth be told, when you dig deeper, they actually could be dealing with some very key, deep issues.
Yeah.
But what is bringing all this, just from your background and what you do, before we get to what Look Beyond is all about?
I think for that particular matter, I feel it's more about the society. There are things that as a society, the societal norms are literally changing. We are normalizing a lot of things because The only way a teenager will know that this is stress, to identify this is stress, getting into depression, it's basically what they hear, what the elders around their environment are going through. So it's literally what they see. Yeah, so I feel the root is on us.
When you say we are normalizing a lot of issues, just elucidate a bit further. What exactly are you talking about? Normalizing what that wasn't being normalized?
Initially, pregnancy was such a big deal. And
back then, eh?
Back then, yes. Because it's not even far. I got my baby in 2017. I was 23 then. But it was a big deal. And I remember even going home. My mom did not literally, not out of that she didn't love me, but she didn't want me to walk around.
And you're 23, you're not
I
young
know, and I
per
was
se.
23. And it was a big deal to her because, you know, this is a baby out of wedlock. It was a whole...
So that was the issue.
That was the issue. But also, it was also the aging, the timing. There is so much that back then, it was very key. But currently, it's so normal. We are normalizing everything. I'm not saying it's the circumstances that make teenagers get pregnant, which is totally okay. And that fear was good at some point, because it forced us to level up. Even me, after getting my son, I knew I had to do better. After that, I had to do better. I had to pick myself up. There was those virtues that were just key. Currently, it's just okay. Single parenting is okay. And matters to do with... you hear cases on media about rape cases and all that. The court takes even 3 years to solve them.
And what
so
makes it
becoming... It's okay.
And
it's okay.
What I keep saying, what makes it even worse is the wanting to settle it out of court. Out of court settlement. That let this family, to which, if it's the girl or the boy, whichever gender it is, that has been abused, and the family to which this person has done it. So let's just come and discuss and agree and see how many cows can we give, or how much we trivialize such.
Yeah, we are no longer valuing the teenage girls as we should. We are no longer taking them seriously as way back. Yeah, our time, it was a big deal. When you're literally a teenager, you have to be taken through some stuff. Squeezy, imekuwa tu, it's no longer part of the program.
Yeah. And do you think that's why actually we are missing the point? So that then we would constantly have stories and reports of young, should I even say young? Because when I say 8, 9, 10, and this is actually very practical, they will tell you, I'm depressed. And sometimes you realize even the whole understanding of this depression, sometimes they don't even have it. So now when you say teens to become adults, this was at a point whereby you'd get different cases, and many cases I should say, of some of these teenagers even committing suicide, because when they were 10, they told you they were depressed, they were stressed, and you're like, what are you stressed about? You are eating in my house, I am feeding you, I am clothing you, I am paying your fees, so what are you stressed about? And someone gets at 17 and 18 and they're like, I can't do this no more.
Parents
and you wonder, what is this no more you can do exactly?
Yeah, I think parents and guardians, we need to be deliberate. Deliberate about parenting. Yeah, literally, because we understand there is an overwhelming fact of the economy. We have to hustle twice as much as before. There is a lot of dysfunctional families, relationships. We understand there are those strains. But at the same time, I think where we are at, parents have to be deliberate. Hold your children, your siblings, whoever you're taking care of, hold their hands, especially, you know, teenage is supposed to be around 13 to 19.
Yes.
But you'll be shocked. I went to a school and a 10-year-old was telling me about a few things, and I was so depressed.
That is beyond the age.
I was like, how old are you? He said 10. And it really hit me hard.
So they know a lot.
Yeah. It's no longer about 13. What you knew when you were 18 is what a 13-year-old knows. Yes. So parents have to literally be deliberate about this. Otherwise, we're just going to drain. By the time they're reaching even 18, they'll be so they'll feel used up, misused, and that will just be a whole roller coaster of dysfunctional families, because it drains down to individual families. Yeah.
So deliberate, you say.
Yes.
And we will explore what this deliberate exactly means in simpler patterns. But before we get to all that, Faith, so when you look at this issues surrounding the growth process of a young person, because this is a teenager trying to get into adulthood, is this one of the major reasons that made you both look beyond? Or is it your personal story, or is it all this in one basket?
This look beyond, it started it years back, but the focus then I felt had to do with more of talking about things the society doesn't want to talk about. Yeah. And some of those issues are, you see, I used to sing, by the way, and one of the reasons I stopped is by the time a song is played out there, there's those issues of artists have to sleep either with producers and all that, and it was a bit messy. And I felt like people are not having this conversation. So that was the root cause, starting conversation that people are not talking about. But now narrowing back to why I made it deliberate last year to now fully focus on it is my life. My life has been a whole journey. Personally, I started living alone when I was 17. Someone would be like, that's normal, someone else did that. Well and good. I got my first baby at 23. I've mentioned that. Yes. Yeah, I know. Someone else got at 16. It's okay. Yeah.
And there's all these comparisons. I don't know why.
And the reason I'm mentioning even the age when I got a baby, because I know there are people who are even 40 and they're being pressured, utapata mtoto lini. So there's no glamour in between getting a child earlier and getting a child later. So my whole life has been a whole roller coaster. And also at 27, got married the right way, the way I really would have loved to do. And at 29, currently I'm going through a divorce.
As we speak.
As we speak. Yeah. So my life on its own, people ask me, how are you managing?
Yeah, because it's quite a lot within a span of 9 years.
Yeah, emotionally and all that. How are you managing? And that's when I was like, wait.
How are you managing?
Beyond.
How are you managing? Hold it there.
Yes.
Because there's quite a lot to discuss as far as that is concerned, tying it down with the discussion of the day. And I want to give you ample time to just explain on that.
Okay.
But before we get to do all that, Faith, time for us to take a very quick breather on the program. We'll circle back with plenty more of this conversation. So stay with us.
To get Skizatune Hail Mary, dial *811 *963 hash.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
To get Hail Mary, dial *811 *963 hash *811 *963 hash.
After the dust settled on rigorous campaigns, Kenyans are waiting for elected leaders to deliver on their pledges.
Have you used the hustler fund?
Will your children sleep hungry when you can borrow 500 or 1,000 shillings and they have some food on the table?
So the 500 you're giving me now is my purchasing power has literally been diminished comparing to probably even January or December.
But how have the leaders performed so far?
In terms of the amount of money that is being disbursed, the minimum being 500 shillings, how do you scorecard that?
No, that I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5.
1 out of 5.
I'll still give it 5 out of 5.
Every week, we bring you an honest assessment of the national and county governments.
What is the impact of the Hustlers Fund?
There are people who borrow praying they don't have to pay back. For example, they pray that the owner dies.
The Scorecard. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1.
We nini mbaya na wewe? Umefanya nini wewe sasa? Angalia kenye umefanya.
Wewe leta pesa.
Kuna nini?
Oh, so alikuwa tu mwenda wazimu anatembea looking around for free labor.
I have eyes on a lorry. Repeat. I have eyes on a lorry. Be aware.
Chini, piga magoti. Panta, lorry, chaki.
Ngoja exactly 5 minutes. Kama sitakuwa in exactly 5 minutes enda. What's the max when they're going to go serious? Go serious.
Every Monday evening, we take you back where the action happened live. We let you know what you missed, even if you were present.
And our goal is to continue supporting our own.
From the latest celebrity buzz,
fashion,
music,
and all manner of youth talents,
the Grapevine cameras rove all week to bring you the latest in the enormous entertainment scene.
Watch Grapevine every Monday at 10 p.m. and the rerun on Tuesday at 2 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1, baby.
Engage us on Facebook, Twitter, #Grapevine on KBC. Let us know what is happening in your area code, because you know what they say, if you did not see it on Grapevine,
then it most probably never happened. Bah!
Ain't nobody gotta tell you what you gotta do.
We definitely appreciate your valid company. We continue apace with our conversation, still on Matters Family Check, looking at shepherding teens into adulthood, still holding court with Faith Agneta, who's a speaker, a realtor, and also founder Look Beyond. Before we took that break, Faith, we're just basically trying to understand Look Beyond, how it came about, and we realized that it actually grew to something different over time, and this you're tying down with your story. How are you managing? In a span of 9 years, quite a lot has happened in your life.
Yeah. I'd summarize it in 2 words, self-awareness and mindset. Those are 2 things that were instilled, and I'm grateful to my parents, to my family, and literally my upbringing, because that's what has worked for me. Self-awareness, just being able to go back on the drawing board, think through even in the midst of everything, and see what's next. And I always ask, what's the worst that can happen? You know, what's the worst? You've lost it, then what happens? You know, and you're alive, you're kicking. Then the mindset, just putting, the moment you start asking yourself such questions, you get that positive energy to move forward, because you have a choice. The easier choice is just to pick up.
The easier choice is just to pick up.
Yeah.
But then also just borrowing from your story, because you had really touched on it in terms of living alone at the age of 17, getting pregnant at 23, married at 27, divorced at 29. Like I'm saying, all this just, you know, quite a lot. Had at any point, you know, the fact that society, communities keep drawing us back, and then that question of what will they say if I speak out? How will they look at me? Because also when you look at teenagers into adulthood, or even just those that are becoming or getting to, you know, to this stage, there's always that question of whatever I do, what will people say? And you realize this oftentimes makes people stay in a hole for the longest time without making decisions. Was this the same case?
Yes, yes. And it's a great motivator.
How did you navigate that?
It's not really a bad thing to first think about what people will think, because for a start, people love you. No one was raised alone. They are just people who are concerned. And any other, even me coming out to have such conversations affected my entire family. It was more like you're shaming your own family, you know. But I had to have those conversations and be like, you know what, now the self-awareness part, you sit down and you think through and you're like, what's my purpose as an individual? What's my purpose in this life? What do I want to achieve? Then I realize it's linking to what I'm already doing and how best do I hack this without being authentic, without being real, without just being factual and telling you, this is my weakness. But you see, this is my beauty at the end of it all, So it was not easy. It was very, very hard. But over time, I just chose to, because also having had lost everything, when I mean everything.
Ground zero.
Yes, ground zero. And the only thing I had was my son. I figured out what I have also is just what is between my head. That was never taken away from me. And my child was never taken away from me. That was priceless. And at that point, I was like, now, it's not a matter of I don't care, but at the same time, I'm like, think whatever you want to think, but my goal and my purpose is just, you know, it's clear. I don't have any other hidden
That's your
agenda.
driving factor.
Yeah. So with that, I no longer worry about what people think,
what
the society
people
thinks.
say.
Actually, I'm the one who, someone told me, you moved on so fast. Why did you ask for divorce? Because as a woman, you're not supposed to do that. For example, in that circumstance.
They told you you should have stayed and worked it out.
And just wait. The guy one day, you know, men take time to internalize. And I'm like, until when? 10 years are coming, then what? I have sons to raise. I don't want them to end up turning out into another photocopy of what I'm experiencing, then another woman to experience the same. So I had to step up and sacrifice and stand in the gap and just be like, yeah, I really love this person. I'm one person, I'm a believer of families. In our family, actually, I think I'm the first one who is getting into such scenarios of divorce. It's not in our history. So, but at the same time, what do I do? Do I change the narrative for the good, or do I stick to this and at the same time make what my family reputation has kept for long drown even in a much worse situation? So now sometimes you just need, that's why I keep emphasizing on self-awareness. Get down, see the pros and cons. Why am I holding on? Life is too short. Enjoy it, live it. The other day I was 23. Now I'm almost hitting 30, so until when?
Until when, you say. But also, just tell me, Faith, the teenagers that you deal with, the specific demographic, is it 10 to 29?
Yes,
10 to 29.
10 to 29.
10 to 29.
But it spills over where need arises, because you realize there are people who are even 30-something, but they see the need to have conversations in relation to either communication, interpersonal skills.
I hear you. Because ideally teenagers between 13 and 19, but of course there's before and after.
Because I realize there is a need when you go to schools and you have conversation with 10-year-old, you realize they know what 17-year-old
know. So that's why it's needful to begin a bit earlier. But also what I want to get from you is that, you know, this specific set, some of these issues that you're mentioning coming from your own background and your own story as far as that is concerned, is it the same from what you pick with these young ones? Issues of dysfunctional home?
Yes, it's very rampant. And the sad part is most families are dysfunctional, but they've all covered up.
So now it takes a toll onto these teenagers.
The teenagers.
These teens now.
Yes, because they're forced to be perfect. You know, the big people, we are cool with pretending. But the kids, they are not. And then you're forcing them to suppress that, to be okay with that. Then over time, they normalize that. And that's even the worst part. Them normalizing that this is okay. Because what happens in future when they meet when they meet abusive spouses, they're like, wow, my mom used to be beaten. But at the same time, my dad used to tell her, I love you. So it becomes,
and so this is now what love means to you.
Love means to you,
So then we are saying that if something is not done, again, the rampant cases we've also had over time of suicide might just continue, because you're saying something that looks like a cycle. This is a teenager at the age of 13, 14, whatever age that is. And this is the kind of home they're coming you know, from the dysfunctional in whatever capacity that dysfunctionality is. But yes, for example, the mom or the dad, whoever it is beating the other one, but then comes and tell the other one, I love you. I care for you. So now they grow knowing that this is actually what is. This was supposed to be. And anytime there's stress, they withdraw.
Yes.
And what happens when you withdraw? All these thoughts come to your mind.
Yes, yes. People have to have more of a place to decompress. Have those conversations. And that's what I was telling you before we started. There is more of a weakling society where even us, we are contributing to that. We are not giving our kids space to talk. And it's understandable. Probably kids are not open with you, but at the same time, create that loop where your kids can open. It could be your mother, your nanny, it could be any other person. Yeah, but someone you trust, at least you get to know where they went to and what do you do going forward.
How do you create that? What is the best way to create that environment? Because again, you were just saying earlier that when you look at the kind of state, globally even, coming down to Kenya as well in terms of specificity, we're dealing with high cost of living. And the only thing that comes right now to a parent's mind or a guardian's mind is that, how can I do more to make more? I'm having job X, but is there a possibility of me getting another job, job Y, so that I can bring this income together and give this child the very best? So that idea of me sitting with a child and we're discussing about issues that you're suffering with and things that are bothering you is
wastage of time.
Yes. How do you create this environment, Faith? From your practice.
There's so many platforms. Personally, I create spaces. Like last year, we had our last segment for mentorship online that cost as low as 1,000 shillings. And we can do in person, we can do all that. Leave alone that. There are churches. I go to CITAM. I'm in that space where I have to go over and above to try get income for the kids to survive. How else would I also trust someone else with the kids? The best other way is go to check in religious organizations. There are those that literally have spaces where we have conversations. CITAM has 2 floors literally for free counseling.
Just for that purpose?
Just for counseling.
And it caters for anyone?
Yes, yes, whether regardless you come from which county, wherever, and they're all over the country. So there's so many other places. You can get coaches, you can say, you know what, meet someone like Faith or any other person to hold your kids' hands. It has to be deliberate. It has to be deliberate.
Now it makes sense when you say that this is a deliberate action from both parents and guardians.
Yes.
So what you're saying is that if a parent cannot be able to do it in one way or the other, they're incapacitated in some form, or they're just too much, they're doing that, they don't really have this time, then there are other avenues.
There are so many people who are paying rehabilitation for kids that are living in mansions worth billions.
And sometimes you can't reconcile the two.
You can't take it back. You just did not pay for 10,000 for mentorship, for someone to hold your hand, for you to end up paying a lot of money in rehabilitation center when they're at the age where they're supposed to be thriving, either in their career, whether in their career or even in their marriages. But you're here struggling to pay their rehabilitation. So people have to think about it critically. I'm talking from experience, and even people in my life, they're going through rehab and it hurts.
People close to you.
Yes, close to me. They're going through rehab because their parents are either, and they're not poor, they're very rich, and you're wondering what happened. What happened? You're too
what
busy.
Was the missing
You're doing
link?
The right thing, but you are missing the mark.
So that's the missing link.
Yes, yes.
I mean, really, it's quite a lot, I should say. But also just talk to me a bit about what other issues are we talking about that these teenagers are facing? Because right now you speak to majority of adults and sometimes you sit and you go like, where? Ikitu ni ngumu. Like there's just so many issues that we are facing as grown-ups and adults, and you'd wonder what happened while you're growing up. Why was this never dealt with? Who bypassed or who did not take care of what? What other issues are this that you're gathering that perhaps you can look into and see if there's a probable solution to some of these issues?
The main one, I feel it's more, I'd ask, where did the flowers go? Growing up, we had so much hope for the next day. Right now, you have random conversation with 5 people just living here. You'd be like, what? You'll be so drained.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Like so one of the things I think it's just, let's try and push the positivity. There is no much of that. We have people who are just bitter. You know, we just need people to be told that they are worth it. They can do better. People want to be listened. You know, they just want to feel like they matter. Yeah, that's just a gap. I feel like that's the main thing, because when you feel these young people, teenagers, when they feel they're not enough, then they get some sugar daddy who makes them believe they are everything. Why would teenage pregnancy not be high? Why would HIV infections not be 60% from teenagers? Why? Because they just want to be wanted, needed. I know it's a wrong notion of it. They should not feel that way. But at the same time, it is what it is.
But that's the truth. Yeah, that's the truth.
The energy all over is just negativity. Even us, tukifika home, kitu ya kwanza we start, oh, the day was bad. You know, you're just draining your entire day. Personally, I have, Thursday is my fasting day. I don't mean fasting the one for church where you don't eat and all that. Fasting where I mean, Thursday is no matter what you do to me, I'll not do anything. I'll smile back. Even if you spit on my face, I'll be like, it's okay. And I tell my mind over and above, it's okay. So Thursday is my fasting day.
Is the practicability of that for me? I mean, sometimes the people can just be literally so annoying.
And it's helped me, because now over time, a lot of my friends tell me, why do you take in so much? I wanted to use the S word, but this is an assured. Why do you take in a lot of this disrespect from people? Even because I don't feel a thing, but I've learned to acknowledge. I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know what's eating you up. I don't know what energy you came with. And it won't bother mine. So the part is I'm just protecting my energy against yours.
So no matter what someone does to you does not matter on Thursday.
No, because
you're just looking at them.
Peace is everything. That's what I discovered. And the same energy transforms. Because before I tell everyone, oh, do this, anyone who is around me knows. With faith, be careful the words you say, because literally I won't take it in. I'll tell you on my face, and if I can't, I'll just keep quiet. Literally living by that has helped, because I'm sure of at least 5 people in my space who are now, they're not like me per se, but they've picked a leaf or two. They understand, for this one to bring her frustration here, it doesn't have to drain me and get to fight with this person. I just have to approach the person differently on an empathy level.
I hear you. So I'm picking a lot of issues surrounding self-worth and mentorship, just in addition to dysfunctionality, especially when it comes to teenagers as they transition to adulthood. And I really want to be very categorical in particular about that issue of self-worth, because even up till now, you would even speak to really matured people, but they sometimes don't feel worthy enough. And does this just come from the statements they had or that which they're not hearing? Is it just a societal kind of pressure that sometimes they would feel things are working for people around me except me? Self-worth, exactly.
It's a whole combination. It's a whole combination. When my husband left, the first thing I was asked, what did you do?
It is what did you do?
Yes.
Not what did he do? Or what
did the societal expectation? Women are asked, what did you do? Not what did he do?
And sometimes that actually that comes both ways, so that even if it's him who left, it's what did you do?
Now, if you don't understand yourself better, you'll beat yourself down and feel like, oh, my earlier relationship didn't work. This has not worked. I'm the problem. No, when you're self-aware, you realize, hey, wait a minute. I'm too good for this brand. Hey, let me get out of this officially. You know, you identify that, and that self-worthiness has to be you. Love yourself. Don't ever lose that.
It starts with you.
Comes in your space.
It starts with you.
Yeah, and pamper yourself once in a while. Do that thing. You don't have to have money, but do that one thing once in a while for yourself. Not for your children, not for your spouse, not for your mother. For yourself, because those are things that will remind you you are beautiful. If you're a man, men are going through stuff, but they are meant to. Wanaume kukangumu. You look weakling if you open up. But at the end of the day, you end up suffering. So even men need to treat themselves once in a while. Go get that wherever you want to the boys. It's important, because that's what reminds you of who you are.
So basically, we're talking about valuing yourself.
Very important. You come first. The rest should just be part.
It's addition.
How would you treat the rest of the people if yourself, you don't even treat yourself well?
I mean, doesn't the Bible say you love your neighbors, you love yourself?
Exactly.
So it is as how you do to yourself.
The practicality is very difficult. For example, when you go to an interview and someone is asked, most people actually, they realize their hobbies when they're asked in the interview. Or when they're doing their CV. But in reality, you've written traveling.
In fact, you even do like, what's your hobby? And you're thinking, okay, what is is it cooking? Is it traveling? Is it eating? Then you traveling.
And that traveling, you look, the last time you traveled was when you were going to Shags.
Oh my goodness.
So you've not literally enjoyed the part.
To say that this is actually what you enjoy to do.
Yeah. So people need to be, when you say traveling, do it.
Yeah.
When you say reading, do it. Don't do it for paperwork, or when you're dating, that's when you're, oh, I love to hang out this place. Take me to wherever, Masai Mara. You've never been to Masai Mara. You only see it online. Yeah. So it has to be very practical, which is the hardest part. Going for that coffee at Java.
How do you do it, by the way? I mean, just give us some tips.
Personally,
Is that, you know, why I ask that, Faith, is because I feel personally it is so easy to say, value yourself, appreciate yourself, put some level of worth to yourself, but doing it is hard. You know?
It's hard. Personally, how I reward myself, the gym. The gym, whenever I'm able to afford an extra coin, I save it and take it to the gym. Hey, when I sweat, I just feel like, yeah, this is it. Yeah, and sometimes even small things like I mentioned, Java is my favorite sport. Because then you get to have that serene environment to think through things, and with a low budget, you know, so whichever space anyone is in, they can always do that. For some ladies, I know when they go for pedicure, manicure, that's a big deal to them. It's hard, we won't lie. We've been wired to, especially women, to nurture, but not to nurture ourselves.
Yeah, I hear you.
Nurture the rest of the people. Then you realize one day, when is the last time I bought myself a pair of shoes?
You can't quite recall.
Yes.
But also for teenagers, how do they do this? For young people, you know, so that when they are growing into adulthood, it now becomes easier to do these things that you're saying.
I encourage teenagers to just be teenagers.
Just be where you are.
Yes.
This is your age. This is just enjoy that moment.
I use a very funny example. When my small kid was smaller, and they have, you know, sleeping patterns are not clear. At night you either stay awake or something like that. So there's this particular night, nimengangana hours for him to sleep, and all of a sudden, mosquito passes, and I put the baby down and I go hit the mosquito. The baby wakes up. So I was up again for like 4 hours. If I wouldn't have hit that mosquito, ningeacha for a minute, the baby would have slept, I would have had enough rest. Teenagers should just be like me. They should not, like, they should have done what I did. The mosquito are these distractions, the peer pressure, what's going on in their spaces. They just should be kids. Focus on school. If I knew better, focus on school. Do what a teenager would do. When you get there, then you get to do what you need to do. Then also for them, I think just reading would help them. And with a space where we have a lot of socialites, socialites in reality should not be what we have in Kenya. Should be people we look up to in so many other things in career.
But people of influence in whatever they are doing.
Yes, they're making socialite look
not
so
how
bad.
we have structured our very own to
if
be
I
looking
tell you
like.
right now I'm a socialite, you'd be like, but that's not how it's supposed to be. So with a world where you cannot stop them from that, but as a teenager, they should just, they should just focus on being them. Pick the points. There's some things, these socialites or whatever we see as bad, you can pick a lot of good points out of it. Yeah. So they should just focus on being teenagers. The rest will flow, and they should be themselves.
I hear you.
They can never be any other person. Yeah, I might be polite, I might be talkative, I might blend in all the other aspects, but there are people who cannot.
So basically saying just be within the age that you are. You're a kid, just be a child. You're a teenager, just be. You're a youth, just be.
Yeah, and mingle around people who make sense.
People who make
in the
sense.
essence, personally, if I didn't have church by my side, I would be so messed up. If I didn't have friends who are black and white, like hapa hakuna kitu.
They're just telling you as is.
Black and white. We love you. We know you adore this side of this. It cannot. You want this project, you don't have money, chick, work hard here. So stick around people who are genuine. Because for me, at some point, I ended up opening up to wrong people.
And too much.
and too much.
Okay.
Then I realized, no.
It does not need to be that way.
Yes, so even as teenagers, they should learn the best way is just hang around people who think like you. It would work magic for you even in the long run.
Well said.
Yeah, because there's no science.
Well said.
If your life, akuna someone who was raised badly and someone who was raised perfectly. Life happens to all of us.
Yeah, and sometimes you could be raised in the correct way.
Yes.
But
and I see parents, I remember my mom was like, where did I go wrong?
I hear you.
Where did I go wrong?
I hear you.
And I looked at her, I was so sad.
Yeah.
But now later on, she called me and she was like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, but mom, every other person is married perfectly. The life was smooth. There was no this and this. And she was like, no, you are okay. And that meant everything. Having her, seen her, being a mother and wondering, hey, tulikosea happy, and asking my dad, did we go wrong?
I hear you.
Where did we miss the mark?
I hear you.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually just that constant affirmation, even just as adult, you need that affirmation.
Yeah.
But we're about to wrap up, Faith, and I just want to pick your headline thoughts, particularly when it comes to what next for this even look beyond, because truth be told, these issues, they're not ending today or tomorrow. It's a constant, continuous conversation around these issues. So what does the future look like for what you're just discussing?
Mentorship is a space in Kenya where if someone tells you they're doing mentorship, someone would ask, it's like artists. They'll ask, what else do you do? You know, what else do you do?
Okay, mentorship
and what else? But I'm looking at a future where mentorship can be purely someone's career, just more of a society where they go for what they are passionate and merge it with what they are strong in, even education-wise, and in their own growth spaces. So looking at the future, I'm just praying that it's very possible to maneuver through schools, focus on their mindset, because there is the A part. A lot of A students, and I know a number of them, who are literally depressed, they're in shags, they cannot do much for themselves. What happened? It's the mindset. They have all it takes, but they were wired that they have to be in an office. So it's all in the mind. Then realizing who they are, each particular space they are in, because life iko na faces. Leo kutakuwa sawa, kesho kutakuwa sawa. Are we able to accept? And are we able to acknowledge that there is failure? You know, because the society we're raising, they're very weak. They're very weak. Our kids are like stressed in every second. It's not normal, and we should not normalize. So I'm looking at a future where we are more of bringing stronger of the older generation, because we need that.
We need that.
We need that.
And I really like what you're saying, that acknowledging failure, so that now you can be able to pick yourself up and see how best you can be able to work around that. Well said.
Yeah, they should look beyond, a future that looks beyond.
I hear you. Thank you so much, Faith, for your time and for your valuable inputs into this conversation, and also just sharing your story. Not so many would actually come out and say, this is what happened and that's why I did what I did. So highly appreciate that, for just being very comfortable to share your story.
You're welcome.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
Faith Agneta, who's a speaker, a realtor, and founder Look Beyond, has been my guest for the past 40 minutes. Definitely what has formed center of this discussion on Family Check this Monday morning is just looking at shepherding teens into adulthood, what exactly parents and guardians can do as far as that is concerned, and just how we can be able to deal with most of these issues that ails our society and community altogether. Good place to end this conversation, and ultimately good morning Kenya from me and on behalf of the entire team. Asante sana. Till tomorrow, good morning.
Dar es Salaam is my home, my city. I've been everywhere, seen everything. In Kiswahili, we say karibu. I bid you welcome. I'm a seasoned photographer and content creator. This is what I do on a daily basis. Come along and I'll show you my 5 top spots here to document daily life. So right behind me is Tanzanite Bridge. It recently got opened here in Dar, and it basically shows where Dar es Salaam is going. Really modern, but also creating spaces whereby people can exercise in the morning. So this place, I generally come and then capture some photos, and it's a perfect place to actually give you the first tip for today, which is composition. You can use the art of leading lines to capture a beautiful shot of this bridge. As you can see, there's a lot of lines leading to